Hello and welcome to the Golf Course Lawn Show. My name is Ron Henry and I am here to help answer your lawn care questions. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. We are super happy to have you here. The way this works is really simple. On your screen, you will see a chat box. And in that chat box, you can enter your question, concern, comment of the day, and I work through them in the order that they come in. Now, sometimes I have the answer, sometimes I do not, but either way, we have an awesome time talking about lawn care and sometimes life. Guys, we're well into February, and temperatures are warmer than expected, and hopefully, that holds out, that sticks around, and really hoping that we give that Punxsutawney Phil is wrong, and that we get an early spring instead of longer winter. As always, we're coming to you guys live on YouTube as our primary platform, but you can also participate in the show if you're on Instagram or Meta. Sometimes when we're showing content, it only shows up on YouTube. So if you really want to have the full experience, feel free to come on over. At any rate, if you answer your questions, we'll do our best to get them incorporated into the show. All right. So that's what we have in the show this evening. All right. First up, we have Mr. Dan Lynch. Dan Lynch is in the live stream, and he has a question about scalping. He says, "Hey, Ron, I've been doing some scalping. I'm seeing some moths. Should I put out a cellopryn this early?" In my opinion, it's a bit early for a cellopryn, Dan. Really later in March, early April. So late March, early April is typically around the time frame when I like to get my insecticide out. Again, it's February, so kind of doubtful that you're experiencing like grub issues or anything like that at this point in the game. So if it were me, I would wait until late March, early April to get your acelepryn out. What I typically find is that April, like a late March, early April timeframe is good for your initial app, and then you can do a second application late summer, early fall in like late July, early August, and that tends to work fairly well. I mean, don't worry about it. Like March is going to be here before we know it, and then you can get your insecticide app out. But I really want you to wait a bit more because we really want to have that coverage as for as long as possible. And if you get it out really in February, I believe that in my opinion is just a bit too early. So hope that helps, sir. Hopefully what you are seeing is nothing to be too alarmed about, but I do appreciate the question. If you need anything else, definitely let me know. All right, we got JP in the house. He says, hello from Central Kansas. What's going on, JP from Central Kansas? Hopefully you are doing all right. I appreciate you coming by to say hello in the live stream. And then next up is Vahid Navi. He says, hello, what's going on, Vahid? Hopefully you're doing well, staying as warm as you can in Canada. And then we have a new viewer, Jeff. Hopefully I'm not butchering your name, sir. Jeff Hiroji. He says, hey, Ron, first time on chat from Katy, Texas, west of Houston. Very cool. Yeah, I have an aunt that lives near Katy. So yeah, I know exactly where that is. That's it's cool. Small world. Small world. And then BCSC is saying, hey, Ron, what's going on, BCSC? And next up, we have a question. And tonight, what I was going to talk about, guys, as far as our topic, was around like getting a golf course lawn this year. We did release a video earlier this week on that topic, but I also want to take some time during the live stream to kind of walk through what was in that video and that content in case you guys haven't seen it, to talk about like the different steps, in my opinion, that you can use to take a lawn from basic to not basic, from ordinary to extraordinary. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be getting into that in a little bit. But first, we have a question here from Part of the Experience. Luis says, hey, Ron, Luis here. Please explain the differences between Barricade 4L herbicide versus Specticle Flow. I don't use pre-emergent in the fall here in Fort Worth since I overseed my 419 with perennial ryegrass. A great question, Luis. So the differences between the two are in the active ingredient. So Barricade 4L is prodiamine, but it is in a liquid form. It's like almost like a suspension concentrate, if memory serves me right. Versus Specticle Flow, the active ingredient is in I've got a bottle right here. I think it's in Dazaflam. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, in Dazaflam is the active ingredient in Specticle Flow. So the differences between the two, from a chemical standpoint, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I can tell you from a standpoint of what they control and what they're really good at. Specticle is an amazing pre-emergent for controlling Poa annua, keeping that out of warm season turf grass. It also has a longer residual than what you typically get out of prodiamine or dithiopyr, so Barricade or Dimension. Let me think of what else I can tell you about it. They control similar things. I have to look at the labels and compare them to see if they're exactly the same as far as what they control. But the big thing that Specticle is known for is as a fall pre-emergent, really for keeping Poa annua, annual bluegrass out of warm season turf. So that's something that it does far better than Barricade or Dimension. So that's the big thing. What you typically find, and what I do on my lawn, is I will use Specticle Flow as my fall pre-emergent, and then I will rotate to either prodiamine or Dimension for my spring pre-emergent. So this spring I've already done prodiamine. And then last fall I did Specticle. There are some people that use Specticle also in the spring too. There's people that use it in the fall and in the spring, and you technically can do that. I mean, as long as you're careful with the rates, I wouldn't apply it quite as heavily in springtime as I would in the fall, because if you go too heavy as far as application rate, it can slow down or delay green up just a little bit. But it's an excellent pre-emergent. It's not inexpensive, but for what it's designed to do, there's nothing really else that's as good as it, in my opinion. So hopefully that helps explain it for you, Luis. Again, they're really, in my opinion, two different classes of pre-emergent from a standpoint of effectiveness and also the residual as far as how long it lasts. So great question, sir. I've not seen you in the chat before, so hopefully that was useful for you. If you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. But as far as what I do, again, I do use both of them. I use Specticle in the fall, and then dithiopyr or prodiamine in the springtime. So yeah, they're both pre-emergent stuff. So that's one thing they do have in common. All right, next up is Vahid Navi. He says, love you, Canada. We are preparing for lawn season. I am busy with a lot of work. Happy to see you all. What's going on, Vahid? Thank you so much for stopping by and saying hello. And I know you're in the Great White North, so cool that you stopped by just to say hi. I'm sure you're a little bit further behind us as far as your season getting going, but yeah, I'm glad that you took the time to come say hello. And then next up, we got Kerry McDaniel. He says, Any consensus on what to use for spraying out my overseeded berry and brug ryegrass? I've heard horror stories about MSM. This is on zoysia. So what I would use, Carrie, is Celsius personally. I mean, I know there's folks that use MSM, there's people that use Katana. There's tons of different options you can use for getting rid of ryegrass out of a zoysia or Bermuda lawn. But if it were me, I would use this. I would use Celsius. Celsius is, as far as a herbicide being gentle on grass, this is a really good option. I mean, there's no temperature restrictions on Celsius. It's very effective for removing perennial ryegrass out of a warm season lawn. And given that you got zoysia, and as slow as zoysia grows, if you injure it, it might take even longer to recover than say something like Bermuda, right? So in that case, yeah, Celsius is what I would lean towards. It costs a bit more, but in my opinion, it's a more versatile herbicide. Like, you can use it over a broad temperature range, and it checks the box of killing weeds and not killing your grass, right? Which is a big deal for you, especially given that you have zoysia. So hopefully that helps, sir. All right, next up is Darren Proctor. He says, good evening, everyone. Hit that like button. I appreciate that, Darren. Thank you so much for coming by to say hello and hit that like button. And guys, actually, first let me get a super chat really quick, and then we will get into the show topic. Our super chat is from LG. See, here's the LG. You hardly ever come in, and when you do, it's to start stuff, right? So LG has entered the super chat.
Super chat.
He says, and home of the Chiefs. Okay, so I guess you're a Mahomes fan. I mean, here's the thing. I don't really care either way who wins the Super Bowl. I would probably like to see the Eagles win because I had oh, I'm drawing a blank. I had both Hurts. I had both Hurts and why am I drawing the blank on the running back's name? But I had Hurts and like the amazing running back on Philadelphia in my league, and they both got it done for me. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name, but yeah, I'd like to see them win. But then again, from my understanding, it's never been done where you have a three-peat in the Super Bowl, so that'd be kind of cool to see too. At either rate, I don't really care. I'm not a fan of either team. So it doesn't really matter to me. Saquon, that's it. Saquon, King Barkley. So yeah, Saquon and Hurts. They got it done for me in fantasy this past year. All right, next up we have a super chat from Mr. Jim. And actually, let me get this first. LG, I want to put some respect on your name. I don't want to have get the ire of not doing what I'm supposed to do. So friend, first of all, thanks for the super chat. And there you are, sir. You are our show sponsor. Your name in lights, and I know that means a lot to you. And then next up, we have our super chat from Jim. Thanks so much, Jim.
Super chat.
He's tall fescue in Louisville, Kentucky. What should I be doing and which products? And do I need to hire True Green? This is a great question. I really like this question. So first of all, thank you so much for the super chat, Jim. As far as what you should be doing this time of year, it depends. And the second part of your question is whether or not you should hire True Green really does weigh into this. If you're going to be taking care of your lawn yourself, meaning you're going to be taking care of the weed control, you're going to be doing the nutrient program, then the answer is very different. So if you're doing it yourself, then what I would say is to start out with a soil test. Soil tests are really important from a standpoint of knowing what nutrient deficiencies there are in your soil, if any. They're also really helpful for letting you know what your soil pH is, which is something that people don't talk about nearly enough, in my opinion. But soil pH has a big effect on the nutrient availability. With that, it's a fancy way of saying if you apply fertilizer and your soil pH is way out of whack, meaning it's not between like 6 and 7, roughly speaking, for most types of grass, you could put out, say, like a micronutrient, and it's not going to be readily usable by your grass. And same thing if it's too low, then some of your macronutrients like phosphorus, for example, is less available to the grass. So a soil test kit is going to tell you what nutrient levels you're missing, and then also where your soil pH is, and then offer suggestions as far as how to correct that. So that would be the thing that I would do. Is important. And then you didn't say whether or not you have weeds in your lawn or not, but this kind of leads into the video that I released earlier this week as far as how to get a golf course lawn. And step one, if we were walking through it, even though I already went over the soil test kit, step one is to identify the weeds you have in your lawn and then use a selective herbicide to get rid of said weeds. So given that you have a fescue lawn, cool season turf grass, you would use something like Tenacity. Great herbicide, no real temperature restrictions, and controls a lot of the more common weeds you have in your lawn. And then Sedgehammer, which you probably wouldn't need this time of year. It's a bit early in the season for sedges to be much of a problem, but these two herbicides are a good combo for cool season turf grass. This is good for getting rid of weeds that are currently in your lawn. So the class of herbicides, what these are called post-emergent herbicides, meaning they're designed to control weeds after they've already emerged, meaning you can already visually see them. These guys will help take care of that. Another thing you should be considering, assuming you're not going to be overseeding your lawn, is pre-emergent. Pre-emergent is one of the best investments you can make in a great lawn from a standpoint of it will do a lot of the heavy lifting for keeping weeds out of your lawn. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. If we go to the golf course lawn store, if we go to shop and we go to weed killer, so what I'm showing you here as far as tenacity and sedgehammer, we have a kit that has both of those. Those are for taking care of weeds that are currently in the lawn. But again, if you want to prevent weeds, which is, I mean, in my opinion, just as important, if not more important, you want a type of herbicide called pre-emergent. And pre-emergent prevents, kind of like the name kind of says, it helps prevent weeds from being in your lawn prior to them emerging. It's a specialized type of herbicide that kills the weed when it begins to throw roots. So it's something that I do on my lawn in the spring and in the fall, and it does a lot of the heavy lifting as far as keeping weeds away. For a cool season lawn, a fescue lawn, prodiamine or dimension, either one of these would be a great result. Like prodiamine is available as both a form that can be sprayed as a liquid, or both dimension and prodiamine are available as granulars. So these are pretty easy. If you just want the easy button, you would pick either one of these. Add them to your spreader, the same spreader you use for applying fertilizer, set it accordingly, put it out, and then water it in, and then you're good to go. You get 3 to 4 months of control or prevention as far as weeds go in your lawn. And then after that, you do your soil test. Based on your soil test, the data that comes back, you can then figure out what fertilizer is the best fit for your particular lawn. You apply fertilizer at the correct rates, and then really the only thing that's left is just mowing. So I've thrown a lot at you, but really a lot of those things are I wouldn't say necessarily one-time events, but they're not things you have to do all the time. Like a soil test once, maybe twice per year if you're really serious. Your pre-emergent once in the spring, maybe once in the fall, and then your fertilization goes, depending on what you're trying to do, once every 4 to 6 weeks you can feed your lawn, and then it's really mowing, right? So the thing that, as far as answering your question whether you should hire TruGreen or not, really comes down to, one, do you want to do all this stuff, right? Like, one, do you enjoy it? Do you want to buy the necessary products and get the equipment to do it? Because to put out the fertilizer, you are going to need like a spreader, like a Scott's, or in my opinion, the Earthway is a better choice, but you need a quality spreader. And then if you're going to do liquids, you're going to need a sprayer of some sort. So a backpack sprayer if you have a larger property, because those can hold up to 4 gallons, or you can use a handheld sprayer if you have a smaller lawn, but you're going to need some equipment to be able to put the products out. If that is something that you enjoy doing, then you don't need to necessarily hire TruGreen. And like, taking care of your lawn is not really rocket science. We've got tons of great content as far as our various blogs that are for free to read on the Golf Course Lawn Store. If you go to resources and blog, there's tons of content in here on fertilizer, on controlling specific weeds, on correcting soil pH issues, on fertilizer choices for the spring. I mean, there's all kinds of everything that you can think of is in here as far as how to get a great lawn. The big thing, and again, the question you have to ask yourself, is it something that you enjoy doing? Because if working on your lawn is work to you, then no, you should probably hire a service and have them just spray everything, and then the only thing you're going to be left with is just regular mowing. If you enjoy working on your lawn and you want to, you're not put off by the challenge of learning some new things, then you can absolutely do it yourself. It's really not as complicated as most people would lead you to believe. The one thing that, again, regardless of whether you have TruGreen do it or you do it, is mowing. Like, mowing is the thing that most people don't do consistently enough, and it really has the biggest impact into the visual appearance of your lawn. So thanks so much for the super chat. Hopefully that gives you some things to think about. I can't answer your question whether or not you should hire a service or not, but hopefully I gave you some ideas as far as what it would take from your standpoint if you were going to do it all yourself, and then you can decide if you have the time and or desire to do it. So appreciate the super chat. Thanks so much for all the love and support. All right, we also got SG. He's back now.
Super chat.
He says, forget your fantasy team. Your largest super chatter over the last 5 years is a Chiefs fan. Follow the money man. But listen, look, dude, Here's the thing, LG. If you want my opinion, if I were a betting man, not that I bet on sports, but if I were a betting man, I'm going to say that the Chiefs are probably going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, you got Mahomes. I mean, you got the refs. The refs are probably good for 7-10 easy, right? So between Mahomes and the refs, they probably gonna win this year, you know. But who knows? I mean, you know, Saquon and Hurts may have something for them. Again, either way, I don't really care. I'll probably be watching the game with a friend from karate, and we'll just we'll see. We'll sit there and just watch, and hopefully it's a good game. That's what I'm hoping for. It's a lot of back and forth. I don't want to see a low scoring game. I want to see, like, you know, them trading blows back and forth. So we'll see. Hopefully it's a good one. All right. Next up, we have Jimmy Miller. He says, "Evening, Ron. I sent you 2 emails with photos earlier. I'm trying to get my Bermuda lawn ready for the first season of real mowing. What advice would you have for me?" Yeah, I don't know if I have the pictures, Jimmy. Yeah. So I got one of them. I got one of them here. Yeah. Okay. So I can show one of these on the live stream. Yeah. So as far as advice goes, if you're transitioning from a rotary mower to a reel mower, the thing I tell most people is start higher, like start mowing higher than you think you would. In other words, if you're rotary mowing your lawn at, say, 2 inches, if your reel mower it's not going to be 2 inches, but say on the high end it goes up, say, 1.25 inches, I would start there. You know, mow the lawn there a few times and see how it responds. The thing that you will most likely see when you move from a rotary mower to a reel mower is initially the lawns are probably going to look actually a little bit worse, because you are going to be cutting it lower and shorter. And once it adjusts to that, after, you know, a week or so of regular cutting, it's going to begin to, you know, adapt and start looking really nice. I'm looking at pictures of your lawn here. You have got quite a bit of bare dirt, a lot of bare soil. So I'm not sure what your plans are for that, if you're planning to sod it or if you're planning to do something, because what I'm seeing in the pictures here right now, you don't really have a whole lot to mow. So you got rid of some trees there, but there's still a lot of bare dirt there. And something you are absolutely going to want to do is get rid of those stumps. Like I see a stump there at like 9 o'clock and then a cluster of stumps there in the middle, and you're going to want those all gone. So get rid of the rocks and get like a grinder to get rid of the stumps and as much of the associated roots as you can, because the last thing you want to do is get a reel mower and run over stumps or hit, I mean, heaven forbid, rocks or anything like that. I mean, reel mowers are really good at cutting grass, but they're designed to cut grass and grass only, not stumps, not roots, not rocks. So you've got quite a bit of work as far as preparation goes. Again, I'm guessing you're planning on sodding it. Before you even get to that point, like, preparation for getting a good result with your seeding or sodding project, whatever you decide to do, is really important. So getting all this trash out is what I would really focus on, because if not, it's going to come back to bite you later, right? If you say you just kind of cut the stumps down a little bit lower, you put topsoil over them, and then you sod it, you're going to have issues with that area. Like, the sod's not going to establish as well there. The grass is always going to struggle. You can likely have disease problems whenever that the stumps begin to decay and break down. You'll get depressions when they decay and break down, because it's going to sink. So even though you might be really jumping at the bit to get to mowing, once you get your sod out, you really want to spend the time to do the prep work to get the area as clean, stones, other debris, rocks, that kind of stuff, out of there. Because otherwise you're gonna have to either fix it now or fix it later. And it's much easier to fix now before you go out and spend a bunch of money putting sod in and getting the lawn, trying to get the lawn established, and then having it struggle in those areas just because you didn't do the work you should have done up front. So hopefully that helps, sir. Let's see, you have quite a bit of work to do, but I mean, as far as advice, I could tell you, if I could snap my fingers and your lawn were there, the thing I tell most people is start a little higher and then work your way down. As far as cutting heights, I think that for most, I believe you're in Georgia, so for most warm season turf grass like Bermuda, anywhere between 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch is a good height as far as to keep Bermuda at. It's the color is good, it stripes well, the mowing demands aren't nearly as much, and I always say, like, if you mow Bermuda grass at 3/4 of an inch, it's short enough for it to look really nice, but not so low that real mowing becomes like a job where you're out there every day mowing the grass. So hopefully that helps, sir, and keep us posted as far as how it goes. All right, next up we got Jeff. Jeff Hirochi is back. He says, transitioning from a rotary mower and working on cutting down as low rotary before real mowing. When I start real mowing, should I start on the highest setting or just cut down to 5/8? Great question, Jeff. So, as I said earlier, starting higher is better. When you decide on the height of cut that you want to maintain the lawn at, which I would, if you've got Bermuda or zoysia, you can tell me what kind of grass you have. Let's say you can set you're going to go at like 3/4 of an inch. I'm a fan of scalping the lawn about 1/4 of an inch below where you intend to maintain it. Reason for that is you save yourself quite a bit of wear and tear on the machine. You save yourself a bunch of work as far as getting debris out. It is less stressful to the lawn. Like there's some people that will get out there and they'll scalp and they'll go right down to the dirt, which for Bermuda, you absolutely can do that. It's going to recover. Like you're not going to kill Bermuda doing that, but it's a lot more work. You're putting a lot more abuse on the equipment. And for the purposes of what you're really trying to do, right, which is, get rid of debris, get rid of like all that old growth and encourage new growth by allowing more heat and sunlight to get down to the soil. If you go 1/4 of an inch or so below where you intend to maintain it, you're going to be in a good spot. So yeah, even if you went down to 5/8, initially with the intention of maintaining it around 3/4 of an inch thereabouts, that would be just fine. Great question, sir, and I like it, man. You're moving from rotary to a reel. Very, very cool. Very cool. It's a big step. And the one thing that you should be prepared for is don't be surprised that initially it does not look as it's not the first time you mow along with a reel mower, especially if you're coming from a rotary, it's not going to look fantastic the first time, but literally a couple of weeks later, I'd say by your 3rd or 4th mow, it's going to begin coming around and really start to look nice. When it comes to reel mowing, and I don't know how often you were doing it with your rotary, but really twice per week is where you're going to want to be. That's going to be the barrier for entry as far as getting a good result with a reel mower. You really can't mow the lawn once a week. You'd be taking too much off. The thing when you get into reel mowing, and really, I say reel mowing, but really it also applies really to rotary mowers, but we just don't say it as much, is that for your lawn to look its best, you need to cut the grass before it looks like it needs to be cut. Kind of like a haircut, right? Like if you wait till your hair grows out and it's all kind of scraggly and all over the place, it doesn't look as good as if you have a cadence where every 2 weeks, no matter how it looks, I'm going to go in and cut my hair to try and keep it nice, keep it manicured. Same thing with your grass. You want to mow it, you want to cut it prior to it actually looking like it needs to be cut. And you probably already know this, or you wouldn't have gotten a reel mowing, but that's a small piece of advice that I would be able to tell you as far as getting a good result with a reel mower. All right, next up, we got Mr. Marculus Thompson. He's in the live stream. He says, greetings, Ron and Stripe Action Crew. Pre-emergent down, fungicide down, essential G down, sun up, and lawn waking up in North Texas. Very cool, man. Very nice, DeMarculo. So you're ahead of us. I am seeing some green up in my lawn near the like the patio sidewalks. Pretty much the areas that always green up first because they tend to be warmer. But here's the thing. I looked at the forecast. I'm trying to not jinx this, and I'm probably jinxing this by saying this. But in the forecast, the coldest I'm seeing in the next 10 days are days like in the 60s, which is really encouraging. So as long as you don't get another cold snap, then we might get an early spring. We'll see. We'll see, right? I mean, but it's all things considered, is probably going to happen. We're probably going to get freezing temps again before we're really into the season. But it doesn't hurt to hope. It doesn't hurt to hope. But nice job on getting your pre-emergent out and everything else. And yeah, you should be in a good spot to start the season, man. I like it. It's Me 2017 says, how big of a difference does scalping height make? It depends. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. For me, 1/4 of an inch or so underneath where you intend to maintain the lawn is the best of both worlds. As far as you're getting a lot of the benefits of scalping while not creating a lot of unnecessary work for yourself. So, if you're maintaining the lawn at 1/2 an inch, then you want to go even lower than that. But for most folks don't maintain their lawns under 1/2 an inch for the entire season. So, I tell you, if you're going to be at 3/4 of an inch, scalp it at like 1/2 an inch thereabouts, maybe a little bit under 1/2 an inch, and then you're good to go. All right. Next up is Chuck Thomas. Chuck Thomas has entered the live stream. Not Chuck Taylor, no relation. He says, howdy, Ron. I have thin Bermuda in spots because of shade. Ooh, that's not good. He said, I had branches cut back, so we'll be putting down RGS in late March. Can I still spoon feed if I'm trying to thicken thin spots? Yeah. So the thing that you just said, Bermuda and shade, you already know that Bermuda and shade don't go together. They're like ice cream and mayonnaise, just don't fit. But if you did some work to have the branches, like the canopy of the trees, to raise, and so we can get some more direct sunlight hitting the Bermuda grass. We'll see. We'll see if you've done enough, right? I don't know how much you cut it back, but Bermuda needs, people say 7-8 hours of sunlight. Really, it needs all the sunlight. The more sunlight you give Bermuda, the better it's going to look. As far as spoon feeding, yeah, you absolutely can, because the thing is what we're doing with spoon feeding in the video that was released, I don't know, a couple of hours ago, is we're not necessarily reducing the amount of nutrient that the lawn is seeing over the course of the month. We're just giving it in smaller doses, right? That's hence the name spoon feeding. So instead of putting out, a pound of nitrogen at the beginning of the month, and that's it, that's all we're doing, we're going to put out, let's say, half a pound from granular fertilizer, and then we will spoon feed, we'll supplement that granular fertilizer with liquid inputs every couple of weeks. And in my opinion, what that does is it helps get rid of a lot of the peaks that you see as far as like a flush of growth that a heavy granular fertilizer app can sometimes cause. And then another benefit of spoon feeding is that if you're planning on using plant growth regulator, if you're spraying every 2 weeks your liquid fertilizer and biostimulants, that's also a great cadence for spraying your growth regulator like Primo Max and like a new EZ. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. Like, I mean, how serious are you? How much time do you have? And like, how good of a result are you really after? Spoon feeding is not going to really negatively affect the Bermuda grass thickening up. If anything, it's going to help. You regularly mowing along with the lawn getting adequate levels of sunlight, which hopefully with the shade you cut back is enough, is really going to be the big determining factor as far as how those thin spots do. It has more to do with the amount of sunlight it's getting than whatever nutrient program you happen to settle on. But I'm a huge fan of spoon feeding for the reasons that I said, because it works with everything else I do in my lawn care program. Like I do my growth regulator every couple of weeks, my liquid fertilizer and biostimulants every couple of weeks. So it's an easy choice for me. I think the benefits, in my opinion, outweigh the negatives, assuming you have time to do it. The only negative really is just the time, right? Because instead of applying fertilizer once per month, you're out there every couple of weeks. So, but the thing is, if most of you guys that are watching this live stream, if you're on a Friday night show all about turf grass, you are probably someone that likes to spend time in your lawn. So being out there every couple of weeks is not that big of a deal. All right, next up, we got Colin. C. Pims has entered the chat. He says, "What's up, Ron? Hope your Friday has been well." Can't complain, man. He said, "Just put down pre-emergent on Wednesday, trying something new this year. Curious to see how it does. Can't wait to get back to it." Okay, so Colin, you tell us you tried something new. You put down pre-emergent, and you didn't tell us what the new thing is. You can't leave us hanging like that, man. Party foul. Absolute party foul. You try something new, or unless it's like a secret, I guess it's some, you want to, I get it. You're holding it to the chest because if it works out well, then you want to share it. If it doesn't work well, you don't want to put information out there to where someone might follow it and not get a great result. So maybe there's a method to your madness. I get it. I was too quick to jump to judge. You probably have a reason behind why you didn't want to give us any details just yet. But keep us posted, man. All right, Colby Taylor is up next. Colby says, "Hey, Ron, hope all is well. 62 degrees soil temps here in Macon, Georgia. Going to try and burn the yard off. What's the soonest you'd recommend? Rio is growing. Thanks." Yeah, so if you are 60 degrees soil temps, I guess you've already put out your pre-emergent, or you're planning on doing that soon. That would be a thing. And then as far as burning your lawn, if you're going to do that, that's the approach you're going to take. I would wait till a little further into the season when the days are longer and we're on a consistent warming trend, because the Bermuda will then will wake up and will come out of dormancy better. In other words, if you were to go out and burn your lawn now, while you technically could do that, the conditions right now aren't perfect yet for the lawns to really begin coming out of dormancy and growing well. So if that's the way you're going to go, I would wait until late February, March timeframe. If you're going to do that, also be safe. Like, I don't know if in your subdivision they allow that, but if you're where you happen to live, you're allowed to burn your lawn. But if you are going to do it, be safe. Like, put out a water perimeter and just make sure that you're safe when you go out and do it. But for me, it would be a bit early. I would wait until later in this month or into early March before doing that. And keep us posted, man. Let us know how the lawn is growing in, the Rio is growing in. Okay, next up we have Jared George. He has a question about pre-emergent and cultivation practices, like around verticutting and turf raking. He says, "Ron, what's your thoughts on verticutting and or turf raking versus an actual scalp? Can I do both? I know pre-emergent before scalping, but if I'm turf raking or verticutting, should I do pre-emergent afterwards? Yeah, so I would do any kind of cultivation practices. So if you're going to be doing scalping, or especially if you're going to do scalping and you're planning on doing a granular pre-emergent, I would scalp before putting out the granular pre-emergent. So that's thing one. As far as your verticutting, if you're using verticutting as a way to thin out the lawn instead of scalping, which is what I did this year, like you guys have seen pictures of my lawn, that's totally an option too. And again, I would do it prior to you putting your pre-emergent out. Keep in mind though, when the way that I use verticutting as a way to thin the lawn out and get it ready for new growth is I don't set up the verticutter so aggressively that it's carving channels into the soil. Really, you want to set that verticutter up to where it's just above the surface, so it's cleaning out thatch, a lot of the old debris, just kind of helping to thin out the lawn a bit, along the lines of what a scalp would do, but not so aggressively that you're getting into the soil. So I mean, technically, you could put out pre-emergent and then verticut afterwards if you have the machine set up properly where it's not getting into the soil. But for most people, I just recommend, get your, any kind of aggressive work done, any kind of aggressive cultivations, like, if you're scalping really low, or if you're going to be verticutting or any of that really low to help thin out the turf, I would do that first and then do your pre-emergent. A benefit, again, as I already said, to doing it first is that if you are doing granular pre-emergent, liquid less important, but if you're doing granular pre-emergent, you thinning out the lawn is going to help that pre-emergent get past the grass and into the soil where it can work better. So if you were to go out and see a really thick lawn, you go out and put out granular pre-emergent on it and water it in, yeah, a lot of it's going to work its way past the canopy and get in the soil. But very likely, if you were to scalp, say at the end of this month or early March, and you're catching all your clippings, which you should be doing, you're likely going to have some pre-emergent. You see little yellow pellets, assuming you're using like prodiamine, in your grass catcher. So the way to avoid all that is to get the cleanup work done first and then put out your pre-emergent. So great question, Jared. I really do like that one. And we have another super chat. This one is from Mr. Cedric G. Thanks so much, Cedric. Appreciate it.
Super chat received.
He's Big Ron. When the grass goes dormant, says dormant, I'm not sure what the first part of your question is, however, it's time to start waking, hang on a second here. It's time to start waking the Friday live streams. I'm back. Very cool, Cedric. I'm not sure what your question was. You said when the grass goes dormant, I do too, but I get it. Now I understand. So when the grass goes dormant, you check out, but now the grass is coming out of dormancy, you're waking up, and hence the live stream, hence super chat. I appreciate that, Cedric. Thanks so much for the, for it. I'm slow, man. I gotta read things over and over a couple of times. So thank you so much for the super chat. I think that makes you our show sponsor. So there you go. Your name in lights for whatever that means to you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm glad that you're back, sir. We have another super chat. This one is Kevin D. Jones. LG effect. He says, good evening. I see LG is back, so this is for Archie. I can't wait for this year and a complete lawn renovation. Very, very cool. Kevin, if you're going to be doing that, keep us posted. What I'll tell you is if you're going to be doing a lawn reno, take pictures, right? So take pictures before, take pictures during, and take pictures afterwards, because that way you can really appreciate how far you've come in all the work you've been doing in your lawn. A lot of times if you're just doing the work, you kind of miss out on how far you've really come. So make sure you do that. Let me look for the next comment here. And while I do that, guys, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button ever so gently, I'm going to have a sip of water here. We've got 98 people in the live stream and only 50 likes. So if you've not hit the like button, feel free to do that. It's a free way to support the channel, and I would really appreciate it. All right. Let us see. All right. Next up, we have Jared. George has another question. He says, considering that it may be more gentle than a scalp, but I am disturbing the soil more. Done properly, you shouldn't be. So if you're verticutting during the season, maybe a little bit, but I mean, during, like, for this time of year, if you set the verticut up where it's a couple of millimeters, 2 to 4 millimeters above the surface of the soil, that is what I do when I am getting the lawn ready for the season. And also what I do whenever, like in May when I'm verticutting the lawn to help thin it out, right? To kind of keep the quality of the turf good where when I cut it, it continues to look nice. So it's really more in how you set the machine up than verticutting itself. But if you're concerned that you're not going to set it up properly or you're going to be too aggressive, then yeah, verticut first and then do your pre-emergent afterwards. And then Colby Taylor says GA Eagles, or you're saying go Eagles, baby. Yeah, I guess you got to say that, right? Eagles are kind of close to Falcons. They're both birds, so I guess maybe that's a thing reason why we could back the Eagles. You know, I mean, I don't know. So here's the thing: some folks are always going to hate on the Chiefs and the refs, but you know, it'd be kind of cool to see history because see him three-peat. I guess. I mean, that would be cool. But at the same time, getting Saquon a win and Hurts a win would be also nice too. But again, we'll see. Hopefully, all I'm hoping for is that it's a good game. All right, Chuck Thomas is up next. He says, got a question, Ron. I mix Celsius and Certainty for spot treating Poa annua, and I have half a gallon left. How long does it last before I have to use it or lose it? That's a good question, Chuck. So here's the thing. I never really do that. So I couldn't tell you how long it can really sit around for. For one sidebar, for Poa annua, really you don't need Celsius. All you really need for that is Certainty. Like Celsius is not very good against Poa annua, hence why the Certainty is in the Celsius Certainty kit. So if all you're trying to go after is Poa annua, then Certainty and Surfactant is really the only thing you need. As far as how long it sticks around, man, I am not actually sure how long it stays. I would get rid of it sooner than later, mainly because I'm not a fan of leaving like chemicals, leaving products in the sprayer, right? Like you can start getting deposits. It's just if you don't empty it out prior to say spraying fertilizer or something on your lawn, you can have mistakes. So, I'm not sure how long ago it's been since you sprayed the POA, but if you have to go and do a follow-up treatment, 2-3 weeks later to fully get it gone, then maybe that's when you'll use the rest of it up. But in general, as a general rule, I would recommend mixing what you intend to spray. Like, don't mix it and just have it sitting around in the garage for an extended period of time. I'm just not really a fan of doing that. I can ask some of my buddies that have spray businesses how long they think it would last, and how long it'll be effective for. But I can't actually tell you, because I've never really tested that, because I tend to not do that. Not tend to not do that. I don't do that. I mix what I'm going to use and I use it all. So sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but I'll do some digging and get an answer. All right. Next up is Jeff Hiroji. He says, "Hey Ron, my lawn needs to be level. Can I do that next season, or should I do that in the late spring? Depends on you. If you were to level your lawn now, you are going to be able to mow lower. That's one benefit of it. I mean, there's a lot of other benefits to top dressing a lawn, but that's one of them. I mean, it helps dilute thatch, helps improve drainage. There's a lot of really good reasons to level your lawn. Can you real mow without leveling your lawn? Absolutely, you absolutely can. You just, depending on how bumpy your lawn is, you're probably not going to be able to mow as low than if you did do that. But I'll tell you, if you have the time, money, or just desire to get it done this spring, then I would absolutely go for it. As far as the process goes, what I would recommend is if you can do a core aeration just prior to top dressing. In my opinion, that produces the best result, because when you core aerate, you're opening up the soil profile, you're allowing air, water, nutrients, making it easier for that to get into the soil. So what I would do is if say tomorrow we're going to aerate and top dress a lawn. First thing you would do is you would aerate the entire lawn. Then you would apply a granular biostimulant like carbonized PNG, and then your fertilizer of choice. Like I would use something like Humic Max, because that's typically what I use on my lawn. And then I would top dress the lawn with a blend of sand and soil. So that sand and soil is going to work its way down into all those holes that were opened up from the core aeration. It's going to help it integrate a little bit better with the soil profile. And while most people level their lawns from a standpoint of being able to mow lower, when they think about leveling their lawns, they think about, hey, I want to be able to mow shorter, which is definitely a benefit. One of the biggest benefits that you also get from doing that is just improved drainage. Like the lawn just drains quite a bit better when you have a little bit of sand in that upper part of the soil profile. So just if you can do it, again, if you got the time, budget, and desire to do it, then I absolutely would level your lawn. But don't think that you have to in order to real mow. So hope that helps, sir. Keep us posted on which way you go. And you said your lawn is hybrid Bermuda. Yeah, I would absolutely, if for me, if you got the time, again, and money and desire, or you just hire a service to do it, That's more a money thing, but if you can do that, then that's going to be the way to go. You're going to really like the way it looks, but just make sure whoever's doing it, and most services will do this, make sure that they are doing some kind of core aeration as part of their process. Because again, you don't want to just lay sand on top of the existing, or sand soil blend on top of the existing soil. It really works better if you've already relieved compaction, you've aerated the lawn. It's going to allow that new mix that you're putting down to integrate and blend with the existing soil. So hope that helps, sir. Keep us posted on which way you decide to go. And again, congrats on getting a real mower. They are pretty awesome. All right, Ryan Contento is up next. He says, hey, Ron, like the stream people, we got to make sure everyone who wants a great lawn this year finds Ron. I really appreciate it, guys. This is another thing, man. If you guys are been following the content, you get some value out of it, hit the like button. And also, with the content, if you find it helpful, share it. Share it around. Pass it on to folks that you think could benefit from it, get some value out of it, because it definitely helps. Definitely helps a ton. All right, Jeff is back again. He's sharing his new hardware. He says, I just bought the California Trimmer Catalyst. We got to clap it up for that, man. You got some new hardware. I dig it. Very nice. Catalyst 20-inch with a verticutter and aerator cartridge. Is the scarifier needed or just recommended? When should each cartridge be used? Great question, Jeff. So I didn't realize they had an aeration cartridge. It might be like a spike aerator, but I'll kind of walk through like my program, like what I do as far as cultivation practices on my lawn. So the verticutter is a great piece of equipment. I find, I'm not sure exactly where you are you guys, you're in Katy, you said, but for me, the end of May, you could technically do this earlier, but the end of May is when I begin verticutting my lawn. So you could do it in April, depending if you have like an early green up and the lawn gets going sooner, you might verticut at the end of April going into May, but in general, the end of May, end of June, end of July is when I verticut the lawn. The reason why that's important is because with you real mowing it, the thing with Bermuda is that cutting it short, it really thrives, it really takes off, it does really well when it's cut shorter. The negative of Bermuda is when you cut it short, it can thicken up really quickly, right? It can become it grows laterally very aggressively, and that can cause cutting issues. So how you'll see it is, say you're mowing the lawn at, say, 5/8, right? And you started out the season mowing it at 5/8 in like April, and there was no issues at all. You're living your best life. The lawn is looking incredible. There's no problems at all. But as you continue doing that, and we get more temperature, more heat, the lawn begins to grow more aggressively and starts to thicken up. Areas that didn't scalp in, say, April timeframe, you get into late May, early June, you may start getting scalping problems there, because what happens is the mower will begin kind of floating or riding on the top of the grass, versus like the rollers and the drum actually running on the surface of the soil, right? So the way you can help prevent that is with verticutting. So gently thinning out the turf, a few times throughout the season. It really does a lot for preserving the quality of cut throughout the season. So that's the thing with Bermuda grass. Bermuda is, in my opinion, it's an amazing lawn to choose, amazing grass to choose for a lawn. But when you are mowing it short, like if you're mowing it how it's intended to be cut, it is there's a lot to keeping it going well. Like most people will get out and they'll get a Bermuda lawn and they'll real mow it, which is going to make it look really good. But again, once you get into that hotter time of the year, you either got to do like a mid-season scalp to help thin it out, which I'm not a huge fan of because it looks kind of ugly, or you can do what you did, which is get a verticutter to gently thin out the turf, and it preserves the quality of the cut throughout the season. The color looks better. You're not going to be scalping the lawn. If you're someone that really likes stripes, you can verticut in the same direction, in the same pattern that you're striping the lawn, so it's really how the stripes can really set in and look really nice. So that's the verticutter. The scarifier, or the turf rake, I guess what they call a turf rake / scarifier. You can use that more frequently. You could do that really every couple of weeks if you wanted to. It's great for just cleaning out the lawn, any debris that's in the lawn, any clippings that end up in the lawn. If you have twigs or any of that kind of stuff, or if you're just trying to also just set the stripes, you're trying to kind of comb the lawn in the direction of the stripes, really help them to pop. Then the turf rake or scarifier is really good for that. In either case, you're not using the turf rake or the scarifier so aggressively to where it's carving channels in the dirt. If you're looking at the soil and there's like literally grooves being cut in the soil, then you're going too aggressive. either with the verticutter or for the scarifier. In my opinion, that's too aggressive. You want both of them set up to where they're just above the surface, and that's going to allow you to not cause unnecessarily stress to the grass. So it's going to preserve a lot of its color even after you're done doing these practices, and you're going to get all the benefits with really none of the negatives. So do you absolutely need the scarifier turf rake? Not necessarily, but I use it more so than I do the aerator. In other words, if I had a choice between having the aerator, the verticutter, and the scarifier, I would have the verticutter and the turf rake and the scarifier. The aerator, you'll use it a few times throughout the season, but you will get more mileage out of the scarifier and out of the verticutter. So if you got budget to grab to pick up the scarifier / turf rake, I would. Because it's a handy tool. It's a handy tool for just like, if anything, just setting the stripes of the lawn and having it really look its absolute best. So from a standpoint of aggressiveness, the scarifier / turf rake is far less aggressive than the verticutter. So it's really your call. I would get it if it were me. Another reason being too is that after you finish verticutting the lawn, and I'm not sure, I guess the catalyst should have like a grass catcher on the front of it. But when you verticut the lawn, a lot of the debris is going to go in that grass catcher, ideally. But if it doesn't, a nice thing that you can do afterwards is go and run the scarifier or the turf rake over the lawn after you're done verticutting it, and that will pick up any debris that's left over. So whenever I verticut my lawn, I always run my turf rake / scarifier afterwards to clean up a lot of anything that didn't make it into the grass catcher. The scarifier definitely picks all that up, and then I finish up with a cleanup cut, and then the lawn looks absolutely spectacular. If you wanted to see what this process looks like, I have a live stream that I did a couple of years ago, and I'm planning to do it again this year. We'll see if it works out this year, if I can do it on Memorial Day weekend like last year, or not, like in 2023 rather. That covers verticutting, turf raking, and scarifying. So it shows the entire process, and literally what's cool about it is you'll see how the lawn changes. You can see how it looked initially when I started, and then after I verticut it, how it looks, after I turf rake it, how it looks, and after I mow it, how it looks. So you can see how it literally changed all within the space of, let me see how long is this live stream, space of just under 3 hours when I did all that work. So if you want to see that for yourself, and maybe it'll help you as far as the decision is whether you want to invest in a turf rake or not, I think it's a good idea. I mean, why not? You already spent what you spent. What's a few $100s more? But yeah, that live stream will show you what I'm talking about. So hopefully you found it useful, man. Keep me posted as far as how it does. Jim is in the live stream. He gives a thumb up. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate that. And then next up, we got Ahmad Jones. Ahmad Jones says, I have a few weeds growing. Since my Bermuda lawn is dormant, should I apply Roundup or Image? I live in Memphis, and it's going to be 77 here tomorrow. Great question, Ahmad. In my opinion, now there's people that will disagree with me on this, but in my opinion, I would never apply Glyphosate / Roundup or any non-selective herbicide on turf grass that I care about. Now, can you, in theory, use glyphosate on a dormant Bermuda lawn if you dilute it at very low rates and use it as a way to control weeds in your lawn? Technically, yes. But here's the thing. Look what you just said. The last part of your question was that tomorrow it's going to be 77 degrees. So even though you look at your lawn and overall it looks really brown, you better believe there's some Bermuda that's trying to wake up. It's trying to come out, to go from that brown to green. That's trying to come out of dormancy. And if you spray that Bermuda with glyphosate, you're going to injure it. You're going to injure it and or kill it. And you're going to have nasty, like ugly areas in this come springtime. So I just wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't. I mean, I want to say like super opposed, but I'm very, very much opposed to using glyphosate on grass that you care about. I just really wouldn't do it. The only time I'd ever spray glyphosate on my lawn is if I'm doing a renovation. Like if I want it gone, then I'd use that. But the only benefit really to using glyphosate is that it's inexpensive. It tends to be less expensive than using a selective herbicide. So you have a Bermuda lawn. So really what I would say is this time of year, if you're trying to control broadleaf weeds, I would use Celsius. And if you're trying to control sedges, or in this case, probably in your case, probably like Poa annua this time of year, I would use Certainty. These this or both of these will take care of the weeds in your lawn and not injure your grass. And then you don't have to worry about, when March rolls around and the lawn is really waking up, you have these dead areas where in your lawn where it was supposed to be dormant, but you sprayed it with glyphosate and ended up damaging your grass. So long answer to a short question. I personally would not do it. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't spray glyphosate on turf grass that I care about. Wouldn't do it. I've seen it. I've literally seen it done personally myself. And he did what most people always tell you to do. Like, he lowered the rate. And when probably on April is when you really saw it. Like, the lawn started greening up, and you could literally see dead patches in his lawn where he sprayed, and he was spraying Poa annua. So he's getting rid of like annual bluegrass, and he used Roundup or glyphosate to be able to do it, and he damaged his lawn. So hopefully I've scared you away from doing that. If not, I wish you the best of luck, but I would not do it. All right. Next up, we got Higgy Pop. He says, "Happy Friday, everyone. Let's all hit the like button for Ron. It is free. Please, let's do that, guys." He's right. It's a free way to support the channel, sends good vibes to YouTube, gets more folks to come learn about creating amazing lawns. If you guys have sat down, you've been in live stream for a little bit, and you haven't hit the like button, please do so. It costs absolutely nothing. All right. All right, moving on. Let's find out where we left off. Let's see what we got next. Is Jeff Hiroji. He says, "Great stuff and content." I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you so much, man. Means a lot. Means a whole lot. CPIMS is up next. He says, "I got my soil test done as well on Tuesday. Can't wait to get the results back and start mapping out a game plan for this season." Colin, I like it. See, so the thing that you're seeing, guys, if you're new to the channel and to the live stream and to the content, you'll notice that a lot of the folks that have been around for a while, you hear them talking about their pre-emergent, because it's something that I preach a lot to get that done, and also about soil testing, because let's just face it, everything is getting more and more and more expensive. Fertilizer is no exception to that. And you figure, as far as some of the things that we carry on the golf course lawn store that you can spend money on, like, this is one of the least expensive things you can buy. Like, I think the price on one of these things now is like $35, right? So they're not really that expensive. If you get the one that has the probe tool, which you have to buy once, it's like $60, right? But as far as the data, the information you get from this to be able to formulate your program, to be able to know that what you're putting in, what you're spending your money on, and what you're putting into the lawn is just what your particular, your little plot needs to do its absolute best, is like, it's priceless. It's priceless to have that kind of information. So I'd really encourage you to get a soil test. The thing is, you'll get it, you can order it, it'll show up in, depending on where you're in the country, within a few days, and then you get the samples, send them out. Within 1 week, you'll get an email saying, "Hey, we analyze your soil, and here's what's going on." It's going to tell you what your nutrient levels are. It's going to tell you what your pH level is, which is really important, because that affects how well your fertilizer is going to be able to be used by your grass. And yeah, it's worth doing. It's a inexpensive investment that, in my opinion, far outweighs the benefits that it provides. So, all right, off my soapbox about soil testing. Hopefully I've convinced you to get one done. Andre Taylor's up next. He says, "Evening all and happy Friday. Scalped the lawn and put out pre-emergent yesterday. Can't wait for the season to be in full swing." Man, guys, let's just hope. Let's hope that we don't get any kind of crazy cold snaps. I mean, we can have some days in the low 40s, maybe a high 30 here and there, but for the most part, let's try and stay in that 40, 50 degree range, right? Let's hope for that. I looked at the 10-day, and that's what I'm seeing. Let's hopefully that sticks around. I want Puxatony Phil to be wrong, that spring is earlier this season, because we need it, man. We need an early spring this year, right? Don't you guys think? I think we've earned it, right? We've had the last few springs have taken a while to come around. This year, let's get going early. All right. Jimmy Miller is up next. He says, "Bare soil was a result of a skid steer. It was Zenith zoysia sodded lawn established in 2008. Keeping my fingers crossed it will come back. I still have multiple trees to remove in the back." Okay, so if there's Zenith zoysia under like all that work you just did, it'll likely come back. It's gonna be slow because it's zoysia. Zoysia is a slow growing turf grass. So just be patient, because that's pretty much what you're gonna have to do with a zoysia lawn. With all the trees you've been taking out, you'll get more sunlight, which is going to help things. But zoysia just it's a slower growing grass. That's another thing for it. All right, next up is Chuck Thomas. He says, "Hey Ron, another question. My Fiskars reel mower only cuts to 1 inch. Am I a loser?" No, man. Look. First of all, if you are mowing your lawn, if you are doing your best to try and improve the quality of your lawn, it doesn't matter what you're cutting with. If you're cutting with a rotary mower, if you're cutting with a push reel mower, doesn't matter. Your Fiskars cuts to 1 inch. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, the thing is, you'll find is that Fiskars at 1 inch is going to do a better job than most rotary mowers are going to do at 1 inch. So the quality of your lawn is going to look better with that than if you were cutting at 1 inch with a rotary. So no, you're not a loser at all, dude. And here's the thing: I started out with a push mower. I can't listen. I'd be the last person to hate on anyone with a push reel mower. I used to cut the entire lawn, but at that time it was 12,000 square feet with a 16-inch push mower, Scott's, and then I upgraded to a 20-inch. And then from that, I got into True Cuts, and then, the rest is history. True Cut, Green Masters, and Lord knows, everything else that's going on right now. So I say all that to say that I started out exactly where you are, and I really enjoyed the time when I was cutting with a push reel mower. It's a lot of work, but it's great exercise. The lawn looks really nice. If you go back in my content far enough, you can actually find videos of how the lawn looked when I used to cut the lawn with a push reel mower, and it looked nice. I mean, it doesn't look like it looks with the stuff that I have now, but it still looked better than the other lawns in the neighborhood. So just keep rolling with what you got, man. I mean, run what you brung, and eventually, if budget and if your desire comes around where you want to move into a power reel mower, you'll be able to do that, and then you'll go up another notch as far as cut quality. But no, you're not a loser for cutting your lawn at 1 inch with a push mower, man. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it doesn't matter if you had a rotary mower. It doesn't really matter. You're never a loser. You're never a loser for working on your lawn and trying to make it better. So if that's all you got and that's all you can use, that's absolutely fine. Just get out there and use it. Keep it sharp. The one thing I'll tell you is this: is keep it sharp. Now, here's how you can be a loser. If you're out there cutting your lawn with a dull mower and you're like butchering up your grass and causing all kinds of disease problems, then that would kind of skew more towards the loser category. But the type of equipment you use would never make you a loser. If you keep your equipment nice and sharp and you use it regularly, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. So yeah, don't ever get down on yourself. There's plenty of people that get down on you already. Don't beat yourself up. Do not do that. All right, Tyler's up next. He says, when is the best time to verticut? Great question, Tyler. So the most correct answer is it depends, right? Depends on where you are, what kind of grass you have, where on the country you are. I'll answer this question as if the only way I know how to answer it is if you're my neighbor here in Georgia. And in most cases, you can delay verticutting until the end of May. If we get an early spring green up and the lawns are going sooner than expected, then you may be able to verticut as early as the end of April. But typically, end of May, end of June, end of July is when I will do my verticutting. You can also verticut again if conditions are right. You could do it a bit earlier in the season. Again, end of April going into May would work as well too. What you want is for the lawn to be out of dormancy, growing well, so you're actively mowing it, it's fully greened up, and then, yeah, if you want to get out there and verticut it because you want to like head off any kind of potential cutting, scalping problems, especially if you're reel mowing, then yeah, it's a great idea. I'd say verticutting, if you're a rotary mower. A rotary mowed lawn can probably still benefit from verticutting, but you probably don't have to do it quite as soon. You probably could wait till end of June to do either a scalp or a verticut to help maintain cut quality if you're rotary mowing your lawn. But if you're reel mowing it, especially under an inch, and once like that heat and the longer days gets here, man, Bermuda is going to light off, and you really got to do something to manage how aggressively and how fast it grows to keep the cut quality nice, to keep the turf looking its absolute best. So it depends. If you're reel mowing, then you could do it as soon as late April, early May. But for most folks, May, June, July, end of May, end of June, end of July is more than adequate. It's a good question, Tyler. Hopefully that's useful for you. And I like where you're going. I like what you're thinking about. You're not just only focused on just mowing the lawn, but you're also thinking, what other practices, to use a fancy term, what other cultivation practices should I be doing to help my lawn stand out among all the other lawns in the neighborhood, right? That's what you're after. And I like it. Because there's always levels, right? You could technically just fertilize your lawn and mow it, once a week, and it'll look like you mow it once a week. You could fertilize your lawn. You can mow your lawn twice per week, and that is a huge bonus. It's gonna look even that much better. You could fertilize your lawn. You could add a biostimulant program. You can move to a reel mower, and it's gonna look that much better. And it's like a rabbit hole. Like you can keep optimizing more and more and more and more, and the grass does the quality of the lawn gets better and better as you do it, but there's more time involved in it. Like you can look at my lawn like over the years. Like you go look at my a video I think I shot in 2018. Like I think the initial how to get a golf course lawn video was like all the way back in 2018 when I had a true cut. And if you look at how the lawn looks then, which I was very proud of it then, if you look at how the lawn looks then, and you look at how my lawn looks now, they're not even in the same universe, as in my opinion, as far as the appearance, the quality of cut, and just overall just how the turf looks, right? And there's a bunch of small things that got changed over that period of time. The nutrient program got adjusted, different growth regulators, introducing verticutting. So it is a rabbit hole, and you have to decide how much time you want to put into it. But it is, especially with Bermuda, it is. People like to think that Bermuda is a low maintenance grass, but it's really low maintenance, or I should say this, it will tolerate low maintenance is probably a better way of saying it. If you want it to look its absolute best, it actually does take quite a bit of work to have it looking like, really, really primo. But it looks pretty awesome when it's done. And I think it's worth the effort if you got the time to do it. Okay, next up is Stanley Henry, friend of God. I don't know, maybe are we related, Stanley? Maybe. He says, hello, Ron. Happy Friday. A couple of questions. When do you send your soil out to be tested? In my case, typically twice a year. Once in the spring, once in the late fall is when I typically do my soil tests. You said I'm in Loganville, Georgia. So Loganville, Georgia, so that's fine. You can send yours out now if you want. Ideally, if you can, you want to get your soil tested if you can around the same time each year, if you can. That's gonna be a better job. It's gonna do a better job of comparing apples to apples as far as the data goes. And then as far as how low should I scalp, my reel mower only goes to 0.75 inches. Well, then in your case, 0.75 inches. So 0.75 inches, and maybe you're planning on maintaining it at 0.75 or maybe an inch. That's what I would do. Because if your mower only goes down to 3/4 of an inch, then that's how low you're going to be scalping it, right? And then again, you might keep it there. You might go up just a little bit above that, and you'll be good to go. But yeah, soil testing a couple times. At the beginning of the season is if you can only do it once. The beginning of the season, in my opinion, is a great time to do it. And then if you want to, and then at the end of the year, if you wanted to just see where your pH is to decide on any kind of lime applications, and also measure the effectiveness of your nutrient program, that's where the end of year soil test, I think, has some benefits. But if you're only going to do it once, the beginning of the season probably makes more sense than the end of the season. All right, Robert Rainey is in the chat. That guy has entered. He says, good evening, everyone. Green haze across the lawn here. Of course it is, Robert. Of course you get the green haze coming in. Well, let's hope, man. We're at February 7th. I mean, we can have a greet up sooner than normal, right? I mean, in most cases, it's like mid-March, but if temps stay where they are, I hate looking at the forecast. I looked at it earlier and it looked good. I'm gonna look one more again, and 10-day, like the lowest we got. I mean, the highs are 70s. We got one in the low 40s, but then it's 50s, 60s. So we're looking good, guys. And even the thing is, the nighttime low, release in my area, we got one day where it says it's going to be 31, which is the 16th of February. So that's the only little question mark, but everything else is fairly warm, even as far as the low temp. So we might work out, Robert. We'll have to see, man. Time will tell. It always does. Next up is Jimmy Miller. He says, Ron, when you had a video out when you're working on Alex's lawn turnaround, you had rented equipment from a company in Duluth that's now closed. Any idea where I can rent a verticutter and scarifier? I do not know. Yeah, I don't know where you can rent. I don't know where you can rent one of those. I mean, you could look up any. I don't know. Look up like aerator rentals. I don't know if Northeast Georgia Equipment Rentals has a verticutter, but I mean, there's a couple places in Gainesville that rent equipment, and you can call around to them and see if any of them will have a verticutter. A scarifier, you're probably not going to be able to find that as easily. I mean, verticutter, what you end up finding, to Jimmy, is when you call them, ask them about a slit seeder, because while a slit seeder isn't technically a verticutter, you can set it up to where you can use it to verticut. You just have to set it up to where it's again above the surface of the soil, to where you're not getting in the soil, and you can verticut with a slit seeder. It's not as good as an actual verticutter, but you know, in a pinch, it will work, because there's not. I can't think of many places that are going to have an actual verticutter like along the lines of what I have with my my Allet cartridge. But again, a slit seeder in a pinch set up properly can do a pretty good job. All right, Josue Araya is up next. He says, "Hey Ron, it's been a minute. Just wanted your opinion on what fert you would suggest according to my soil test sent earlier. Thank you for your help as always." Yeah, I think I responded to you already, Josue, but the 14714 would be a good choice, and then a micronutrient for the micros. Let me see if I can find your soil test, and we can pull it up here live. Let's see if I can find, because I get a lot of emails. I'm not sure if you are still near the top. You are. Look at that. Look at that. All right, I found it. Let me do this so don't put any of your private stuff in here. And okay, let's see if I can get this on the screen for everybody to see. All right. So this is Joe's. I know I'm bushing up your name, man, and I apologize. This is his soil test, and let's go there. All right. So if the first thing I look at when I look at a soil test is your pH, which right now it is beautiful, gorgeous, right where it needs to be in the middle. But if we look at your nutrient levels, so your macros, your nitrogen and phosphorus are low. Magnesium is a little bit low, but then also your micros are low. So really what we're looking at is you got some macro deficiencies and also some micronutrient deficiencies. So what I would do if it were me is we're going to want to apply a fertilizer that has some phosphorus in it. My personal recommendation would be the R14714. So I can show you really quick here. If we go to the golf course lawn store and you go to shop and to lawn fertilizer, the second one is going to be the 14714. This is going to have nitrogen, phosphorus, a bit of potassium, which your soil needs. It's also going to have some micronutrients, so it's going to help raise those levels. Now, the one thing that I did see in your soil test is that some of your micronutrients, like your boron, copper, are low, and the granular fertilizer that I'm recommending is not going to have those. So in that case, we're going to pair this along with a liquid micronutrient. So the 14714, you should already have this in your email, but I'll link it for you in the chat here in a second. And if you go to the homepage, you'll see our micronutrient fertilizer. I would use those two. So the 14714 and then our liquid micronutrient, that's going to do a lot to address those low levels within your soil test data. So in case you don't have them, I'll drop them both in the chat so you'll be all squared away, Josue. Here's the micronutrient, and this is the granular fertilizer. And yeah, this will put you in a good spot as far as getting you in good shape for this season. Complete fertilizer. There we go. All right. That is what I would that's what I would roll with. That's gonna do it for you. And again, this should be in emails. I think I responded to your email earlier today, but just in case, now you got it twice. All right. All right. Hunter Hall says, what would you do if your neighbor admitted to poisoning your lawn for the past 3 years? As of June, cameras have been installed in my home. Got to admit, I was stumped as to what was going on. So you have a neighbor. When you say poison, were they purposely doing it, or did they just have an accident and didn't realize what they were doing? I mean, if they were purposely doing it, that sucks a lot. I don't know. I mean, tell them to stay off your property. I don't know what they were doing. You didn't go into details as far as what they're doing, but just tell them to stay off your property. Don't like quit doing that. And if you keep doing that, you will call law enforcement, because you can't go out and like destroy other people's property. I mean, that's essentially what you're saying is happening. You might talk to them and say, hey, did you realize that, whatever you're doing is damaging my lawn? And they might say, no, I didn't realize that. And you say, well, yeah, it is. And say, oh, well, I'm sorry. I won't do that anymore. My bad. And then you guys can just talk about it and it'll be all good. But assuming that it's malice, which again, that's I mean, that'd be kind of crazy. I mean, you'd have to really not like someone to go out and poison their lawn intentionally, not from not one, not two, but 3 years in a row. But yeah, I mean, without knowing exactly what they're doing, I would talk to them first, ask them very, very nicely to stop, and then just if it continues, just take it up with law enforcement. That's all you really can do. That stinks. It's really, really crappy neighbors, man. I mean, the thing is, who has time to do that? Like, I mean, you don't have enough. You really want, you dislike someone so much that you're going to go out and take the time and energy and resources to be able to go out and damage their lawn for like multiple years. I guess you have better things to do with your time. I mean, I don't know. I guess not. It says here, here's another question. He says, what? So he says, should I still use something with potassium even though mine is high? Your potassium isn't high, Just way. The levels of it are adequate. And potassium and nitrogen, they don't stay in the soil nearly as long as phosphorus do. So those are something that you can continually apply throughout the season. So looking at your soil test results again, if you look here, like your N is obviously low, your K is just below optimal, and then your P is low. So the 4714 is still where I would go. Still what I would apply. Yep, that's still my recommendation. Still stands as far as that goes. Okay, next up is Colin says, yep, I have not tried this certain pre-emergent before, but I use flumioxin for the spring. It says it's more specific to be used on dormant warm season grass. Shall see what it does. I'll keep us posted as far as how it goes, man. We shall see. Either it'll work or it won't, right? Josue is up next. He has another question. He says, I'd also like to incorporate PGR this year. How could I go about doing that? A question that is you're after my heart asking this question. I get to talk about growth regulator. Yeah. All right. So when it comes to using PGR, if you've not seen the video that I released earlier today, which is about different combinations for feeding your lawn, it's titled like the Blueprint 2.0, because several years ago, 3 years ago at this point, when I was still using Turfplex and a bunch of other fertilizers that we don't carry anymore, I showed various combinations that you can use for feeding your lawn, right? From very basic, saying if you're just using a granular only program, what you could do, and then adding liquids into a spoon feeding program, all the way up to what I'm doing, which is granular fertilizer, and then also liquids and biostimulants. When it comes to using PGR, I've done PGR bunch of different ways over the years. Most of the products that you'll look at, the labels will have you spraying them once per month. What I find produces a better result, Josue, is to take whatever take that monthly application rate and cut it in half and spray it every 2 weeks. What you get with that is a lot of the negatives that you can run into with, like in particular with trinexapac ethyl, which is the active ingredient in that's not it. This is it. The active ingredient in Primo is you can get a bit of tip burn or yellowing like the first time you spray it. If you spray it at lower rates every 2 weeks, you avoid that. You don't really have that problem. And then if you stack Primo along with a new EZ, you get even better regulation. The color is better, and it's a beautiful thing. When I would start doing growth regulator is, again, depends on where you are in the country, but in my case, typically it's the mid to end of April, and then once I start, I maintain that cadence of spraying every 2 weeks until we get really into October. So the one thing with growth regulator you want to keep in mind is that if you're going to do that, ideally you want to continue using it on regular intervals until you get into the period where growth slows down, or you can get what's called like the coil spring effect. So say you go and you spray growth regulator on your lawn, and then like 4 weeks, 5 weeks goes by and you don't spray any more of it, then the lawn that's been held back by the PGR, it's like the technical term is like this is a gibberellic acid inhibitors. But what it does is, because it's no longer being inhibited, the grass, you'll see like a flush of a lot of growth in a short period of time. So the thing to keep in mind if you decide you're going to use growth regulator is to continue to do it throughout the entire season. And again, if you're spoon feeding your lawn, or you're applying liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks, it gives you the opportunity to be able to use your growth regulator along with that. We have a carefully written blog post on this very topic on growth regulator that I like to think is pretty good, and that I will share with you, Josue, that shows you a couple of different options that will show you just using only Primo, that will show you only using a new EZ, or will show you also using both of them together, which is what I do and what I'd recommend. The only negative to using both Primo and a new EZ together is that it does cost a bit more, but the results, in my opinion, are well worth it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about really quickly here. If you go to this blog, which I'll link here in the chat, talks about how plant growth regulation can make your lawn thicker and greener. This is a free blog on the Golf Course Lawn Store. You don't have to pay anything to get to it. It's absolutely free. Talks about what PGRs are, what the benefits of them are. Talks about Primo and the coverage you get out of it. Talks about a new EZ, coverage you get out of it, and how to use it, and then how to apply them, tips on how to apply them and not damage your lawn. And then the video that I shot last year, which talks about using a new EZ and Primo together. So combining growth regulators, like mixing them at lower rates and the results you get from doing that. And then finally, because, all this talk has been like, application rates. And the question you're probably gonna have is what rates should I use, or what rates that can work well if I am using PGRs in on a cadence of spraying it every 2 weeks. And for that, I've got the rates here for you. So depending on the kind of grass you have, with the half rates that you would use, and for warm season grass, the half rates you would use, and the same things for a new EZ. These are just a guide. Obviously, read the label, make adjustments based on what you're seeing in your particular lawn. But these rates, at least for what I've used on warm season grass, have worked really well. And the folks, both in the Golf Course Lawn Academy and other customers that have tried, have used these rates, have also reported great results. So I feel pretty confident that if you went with these, you'll be in a pretty good spot. So I will link this in the chat for you as well too, if you want, sir. So you'll have some nighttime reading to get you all squared away on using growth regulators. What I will tell you though is that there's life before PGRs and there is life after PGRs, and you'll wonder once you start using it why you waited so long. So there you go. All right, next up is True Gator Fan. He says, "Happy Friday, Ron. I went to Site One in Memphis today just to look around. I was like a kid in a candy store. I saw the almighty Specticle flow. Was it like in a glass case and with like lights on it? Probably not. It's probably just sitting on the shelf all dusty because hardly anyone's buying it because it's so expensive. Because I even got to touch it. I had 4 jugs of Coastal. Very, very cool. Nice, man." And CPIM says, "SureGuard actually has the same active ingredient. Thanks for that. I appreciate that, Colin." And then Trevor Schultz is up next. He says, "Hey, Ron, thanks for all your help. I can't get Celsius in California. Any other recommendations to get rid of rye?" You could use Certainty. You could use Certainty to do it. That will also kill ryegrass. It'll damage and or kill really any like fescue, ryegrass, Kentucky bluegrass, really any cool season lawn, turf grass. So this you could also use instead. You could also look into, I don't know if Katana is available in California. That's also another option that folks like to use as a frill. It's really popular for getting rid of ryegrass out of a Bermuda or zoysia lawn. But I would just say you just go with Certainty. Also, Certainty is great to have on hand if you don't already have some, because as far as sedge control in warm season turf grass, it is awesome. It's the bee's knees. And then for Poa annua control in, again, warm season grass, it's really tough to beat Certainty. So I'll send you a link here to it. And we have a kit that has Certainty, surfactant, and dye in case you need that. But that's what I would push you towards. So here you go, Trevor. Let me get back in the chat because that browser tab crashed. Guys, you know one thing about me, I'm a tabaholic. I got like if you guys ever saw like my browser tabs, it is bad. I've got more tabs I know what to do with. So at Trevor Schultz. Here you go, Trevor. There you go. So this is that Certainty. You can get it on the Golf Course Lawn Store under our weed killer section, and that will get you in a good spot as far as getting rid of rye. And whenever you happen to have sedges in your lawn, it'll also do that as well. All right. Next up is Jeff. Hiroji, he says, hey, Ron, I think I jumped the gun and applied granular pre-emergent medium light app a few days ago. If I scalp the lawn short today, can I reapply pre-emergent? No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I mean, you really shouldn't, you know, if you apply the pre-emergent and you watered it in, you're likely going to be just fine. The reason why I recommend scalping prior to putting out your granular pre-emergent is that if you have a really thick lawn, what you can run into is that the prill, the little granules, you may have some of that gets caught in the canopy, and if you've gotten scalped the lawn, you'll be taking some of the pre-emergent out. So as a way to get more out of your pre-emergent to increase the effectiveness of it, especially if you're using granular, for liquid, it doesn't really matter as much, but for granular, if you wanted to scalp the lawn or thin it out a little bit before putting out your granular pre-emergent, it is going to work better because it just makes sense, right? It's going to get past that canopy, get in the soil. It's going to work better than if you have some of it hung up in the canopy. I really wouldn't reapply it because you really don't want to overdo it on pre-emergent either. Now you said you did a light application. Now, if you're telling me, I don't know, let's say the bag says you're supposed to apply the pre-emergent at 4 pounds per thousand, and you went out there and you put it out at 2 pounds per thousand, then yes, if you can go out and scalp the lawn, you want to go and put out 2 pounds per thousand to get to the correct rate per the label, then that would be okay. But if you applied it at like the label rate, say 4 pounds per thousand, and you go scalp your lawn this weekend, don't go out and put pre-emergent out again at that same rate. I would not do that. So it really depends on what you mean by a medium light app. The long and short of it is you don't want to exceed the application rate. Whatever the rates are that you're supposed to use, you don't want to exceed that. And if you didn't do that, then I guess you're okay to get up to what the rate should have been. But if you've already done that, then I would not. And long and short of it is, man, if you watered your lawn, you watered in really well, you're probably going to be okay. I really wouldn't sweat it too much. All right, next up is Blake Lowry. Blake Lowry is, he says, hey, Ron, I found I can get rice bran fairly cheaply. I am thinking about putting a layer down during my renovation. Thoughts? That's a tough one. I don't know. I've never heard of using, I've heard of using straw, but I've never heard of using rice bran as part of a renovation project. I mean, it might be a thing, but until today, I've never heard of that. So I can't really offer guidance on it, Blake. If it behaves the same way as straw, and like you're not going to be bringing any weeds or anything else that you don't necessarily want in your lawn I guess it could be all right. But I've never heard of anyone using rice bran. I guess I'm guessing instead of like straw, like wheat straw or whatever on your lawn. So sorry, I'm not more help on that one. But if it's something that folks have done a lot of and it's a common thing, then you're probably going to be just fine. I just never done it. All right, Adam Stark is up next. Says, hey, Ron and lawn crew, just hopping on. Got some green showing, and it's not Bermuda. I think it's St. Augustine or zoysia. Will conchloric work to get rid of it? Is this the best thing to do? Okay, so unless your lawn, Adam, has already had St. Augustine or zoysia in it, like your lawn has got some St. Augustine, like you had some last year, or you had zoysia like last year, then kind of unlikely. Like what you're seeing that's green that might be coming in might be Poa annua, in which case you could use like certainty to get rid of it. But if it's okay, let's play devil's advocate. In the event that it actually is St. Augustine, which I kind of doubt, but let's say it is St. Augustine, you could use conchloric to get rid of the St. Augustine, but conchloric is not going to do anything to the zoysia. Zoysia is both zoysia and Bermuda are fairly tolerant of conchloric. It's St. Augustine and centipede and a few other grass like fine fescue, like some of the other grasses that are more sensitive to it, but zoysia is not one of them. So zoysia is not, you're not going to use that to get rid of zoysia. But again, I kind of doubt that unless your lawn already had like a zoysia patch in it or St. Augustine patch in it, that somehow zoysia and St. Augustine have gotten into your lawn. More than likely what you're seeing is some other weed, or this time of year, annual bluegrass, or also known as Poa annua is likely what you're seeing, which in that case, you could use certainty at the higher rate to get rid of that. So hope that helps, sir. It's a good question. I am going to, without even seeing it, I'm going to bet that it's not zoysia or St. Augustine. I am going to put my money on something else. Maybe, just maybe Poa annua. Maybe. All right. Jeff says, Ron, thanks so much for all the advice. You're very welcome, sir. Hopefully it's useful. Give you some things to think about. And then next up is Joseph Kim. Joseph Kim is under the chat. And he says, hey, Ron, new house, May 2024. Congrats on the new place. Nice. New homeowner. Pretty awesome. I just scalped my lawn. I plan on aerating and leveling in May, June. Do I scalp again before I aerate and level? Depends on the height of cut you're maintaining the lawn at. It's a good question, Joseph. But if you were maintaining your lawn at, say, 3/4 of an inch or so, under an inch, I don't think it's necessary to necessarily go out and scalp your lawn again if you're already under an inch. If you're maintaining your lawn at 2 inches, then yeah, I mean, getting it lower, it would be a good thing because it's going to make working that material into the soil, like using a leveling rake on 2 inches of grass is a pain. It's no fun. Versus if the grass is under an inch, it's much easier to see the high and low spots. The leveling rake is going to move around a lot easier. So the best answer to the question is it really depends. If your grass is already short, not necessary. If it's higher, I'd say really above an inch and a half, I would consider lowering that height of cut as part of your aeration and leveling project. The order that I would do things in is I would do the scalp first if you do need to do that, and then I would aerate, and then within a day or two of aerating, I would then go out and incorporate your leveling mix, your leveling material. Be sure after you aerate to apply a good granular biostimulant like carbonized PNG and a fertilizer. It's a great time to fertilize your lawn after aerating. Like literally you're fast tracking that nutrient right into the soil, which is exactly where it needs to be. So don't miss out on the chance to do that after aeration. So hope that helps, sir. Congrats again on the new house. Keep us posted as far as how the project goes. Sounds like fun, man. You're not messing around. You haven't been in the house a year and you're already getting after it, man. You're getting after it. You're not even letting it go into us too long, right? You're getting out to get the lawn exactly the way you want it. I like it. No point in wasting time. No Name says, hey Ron and fellow lawn enthusiasts, great new content you are adding. Let's get those likes up. Thank you so much, No Name. Yeah, so guys, so this year, like I said, I've committed to more regularly posting some of the more longer form content. Like some of you guys that have been around the live stream for a while, like No Name, LG, some folks that have been around for like Richard Gleason, like he pops in every now and then, that have been with the channel for a long time, know that, years ago, I didn't really live stream. I only did like long form content. So with the live streams, which is something that I started doing, this is going on year 5. We're going on year 5 now. So 2020, I think is when I started, the fall of 2020. I started doing that, and then also working on growing the golf course lawn store, just the time that I had as far as to make the longer form content, because it takes more work to film that. It takes more work to edit, get it all set up. That just got put on the back burner a little bit. So because you guys have been saying that you want more of that, I sent out some surveys and some folks said, yeah, man, we like the live streams. We like the shorts that you do from the live streams, but being the never satisfied bunch that you're like, we want more. We also want the long form stuff too. So we want the long form, we want the live stream, and we want the shorts. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing and just add more to it. So hence why this year I'm committing to doing more of that. And the thing is, there's some content that needed to be refreshed, right? Like I've had some content that like on liquid fertilizer combinations, like the one that was released today, like the video that I had for that, those products, some of them aren't even available anymore, right? So I want to make sure the content reflected the new things that I've been doing for a couple of years and that are readily available for everyone else. And for people that are new to the channel, new to the content, new to this approach of taking care of your lawn, it gives them something fresh and new to look at. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing more of that. So for any of you guys that have been around for a while, if you see me remaking videos with a different twist, or taking an approach that is trying to reach out to people that are newer, just know that a lot of you guys are already experts. You already know what you're doing, but not everyone is that way. So I try to make the content in a way that, kind of fits everybody. Like you have some stuff that's really for more advanced folks. Like some of the video today is probably more for more advanced people. And then the video earlier this week is really for someone that's brand new saying, hey, I got a lawn that looks like absolute hot garbage. How do I take it from hot garbage to not hot garbage to people asking me if my grass is fake? And that video covers all of that. So that's the plan. So I got more content planned for you guys this year. Should be a fun one, and just keep posting, just keep watching. I really appreciate it. All right, BMW M5. Good job, man. Before I even get into it, good job on choosing the M5. I always say like the M cars, the AMG cars, like those are the cars that the engineers really want to build. Like the other cars they build are the cars they need to be able to keep the lights on, but the M cars are the cars that, the engineers, things dreams are made of. Anyway, to your question. Hey, Ron, thanks for the great content. We have Bermuda here in Dallas, Georgia. Sedge and POA are coming up like crazy already. Will the orange specticide weed killer for Bermuda work for these pesky guys? No, not real. No, I know what you're talking about, the orange bottle. Not really. Against Poa annua, not well. And against for sedges, I think it's only labeled for a couple of them. What I would get you at BMW M5 is for both of those weeds you're talking about, for sedges and Poa annua, certainty. This is your jam. This will take care of sedges, and it will also take care of Poa annua, also known as annual bluegrass. For best results, you will combine certainty along with surfactant, and then that will make quick work of what you've got going on in your lawn. That's what I would do. I wouldn't mess with the stuff at the big box stores. This is well worth it. Like this is a product that you will absolutely make use of throughout the season, if for anything for sedge control, right? So yeah, this is what I would go with. And if you want to know where you can find it, you can grab it here on the Golf Course Lawn Store. We have a kit, believe it or not, that has everything you need: the herbicide, the surfactant, and the dye. So you'll be all good to go. So at BMW M5, here you go. This is the certainty kit. All right. That is what I would do. I would not bother with the Spectricide orange bottle. It's not going to be. It's going to have very good results against the weeds you're talking about. Against like broadleaf weeds, it's not bad, but sedges not so much. And you also got to be careful with it, especially when you get to like hotter times of the year. You have to be careful with using that product. Whereas with certainty, there's not really any label temperature restrictions. And if you're going to do broadleaf control, I would say Celsius. But I mean, the thing is, man, you drive an M5, man, like, you like the good stuff. This is the good stuff. This is like, as far as like, if you could talk about like more bougie herbicides trying to take care of like weeds in your lawn, like kill weeds, not kill your grass. Like this is what you want for a warm season lawn. Like I would stay away from the stuff at the big box stores. I mean, they're more expensive per application. And in my opinion, you have a narrower range over where you can use them without causing damage to your lawn. So certainty and Celsius is where I would go if it were me. All right, Matthew Garcia has entered the chat. He says, hey, Ron, I currently have Bermuda, and I want to replace it with zoysia. Should I continue with pre-emergent and my fertilizer routine in the meantime? Yeah, I still would. I mean, you're probably not going to be doing zoysia until late March, early April. So yeah, you can still put out your pre-emergent. No issues with that. And if you're going to be feeding the lawn, you're still going to want to put a fertilizer down whenever you get ready to put your zoysia in. And here's the thing you have to keep in mind as well, Matthew. If you're going to be doing a renovation where you're getting rid of Bermuda and going to zoysia, which I'm going to be doing this year as well on just the front lawn, is you're going to be treating, as much as it pains my heart to say this, you're going to be treating Bermuda like a weed to an extent, right? Because you're going to be spraying probably glyphosate or some other herbicide combination to try and kill off the Bermuda grass. So you want the Bermuda to be woken up and you want it to be growing, right? Because whenever you go out and spray glyphosate or whatever herbicide combination you decide to use to get rid of the Bermuda, if you spray dormant Bermuda with glyphosate, it's not going to have much of an effect. But when it's actively growing and giving it nutrient, giving it fertilizer is going to help with that. It's going to help the fertilizer. It's going to help the herbicide to work better. So yes, I would still do your nutrient program, your pre-emergent program as you plan to, and the timing on when you would get rid of the Bermuda is really when it's greening up, it's really beginning to grow, because then you can spray it with herbicide, with like whatever you're going to use to get rid of it. A good combination, if you want one, is glyphosate and fusilade. Like those two together is a really good combo for knocking out Bermuda grass. As far as like a one and done, that in my opinion works better than just doing glyphosate. If you just use glyphosate by itself, you can probably need a couple of rounds to really get the Bermuda knocked back or under control to where you can then put the zoysia in. But if you do glyphosate and fusilade 2, it's not necessarily an inexpensive combination to spray. Like the fusilade 2 can be kind of expensive, but that mixed with glyphosate is absolutely devastating on Bermuda grass. So that is what I would do. That's what I'm going to do whenever I am cleaning up my front lawn or killing off my front lawn to get ready for zoysia. So hopefully that helps, sir. Great question. And keep us posted as far as how it works out. Let's see here. Emmanuel Jacob says, "Hey Ron, does having an active disease in your lawn affect your soil test?" That's a good question. I don't believe so. I mean, unless the disease that you're dealing with, and I can't think of any that really do this, there might be some, but unless the disease that's in your soil is like materially affecting nutrient levels, or like materially affecting like like I mean hydrogen ion activity, like it's not gonna really be showing up in your pH, and it's not gonna really show up as far as the measured nutrients in your soil test. So I'm inclined to say no. There might be a disease that will skew soil test results, but I've never heard of that really being a problem. I can ask around, but I'm inclined to say no. Emmanuel. All right, Jim Schmid is up next. He says, Jim Schmid says, "Evening, Ron. Can you do an explanation again, if you've not done so already tonight, of what products use the flood jet when spraying versus the foliar spray, the fan tip, and which herbicides will we use surfactant on?" Great question, Jim. Okay, so really, when it comes to spray tips, I got two of them right here. Let's talk about the flood jet tip first. So this is the flood jet tip. It is white. It's got a big wide notch there that you can see. And the idea behind this guy is that it's going to produce a larger droplet. So when you spray it, it's going to look like more like water that's coming out of your shower head. So like larger droplets versus a finer mist that this guy will produce. So you would choose this type of spray nozzle, spray tip, whenever the product you are spraying is one that needs to get into the soil. So pre-emergent would be a good example. Insecticides would be a good example. And also most fungicide applications would also use a flood jet tip, because the goal is with that larger droplet, you don't want it to get on the leaf of the plant. We're not trying to coat or paint this product onto the leaf of the grass. We're trying to get past the grass and into the soil. So a larger droplet is better for that. So a little show and tell, for example, if we were to go to the weed killer section of the golf course lawn store, right? Pretty much the only herbicides that you see here where we would use the flood jet tip would be our pre-emergents. So any of these are ones that you would use the flood jet tip for. So Specticle, prodiamine, these guys would be flood jet tip products. And then we go over to fungicide, insecticide. For the liquid products like Acelepryn SC and Pillar SC, these would be options where you would use a flood jet tip. Because again, in most cases with those products, you're trying to get them in the soil, and a larger droplet helps with that. So now the fan tip or the foliar spray tip, this guy produces a fine droplet. Now, why do we want a fine droplet? You can think of foliar sprays as, the analogy I like to use is if you're putting on sunscreen, right? If you're putting on sunscreen, when you do it on, you put sunscreen on, you don't put it on so heavy that it's all goopy and like runs off your arm. You put some on and you kind of work it in, you get a nice thin coat over your entire skin. Or if you're putting a lotion on, you're putting a nice lotion on over a thin coat over your entire skin, and your dermis, the skin can take it up and moisturize and be able to make use of it. With a foliar spray tip, that's what we're doing when it comes to herbicides. If we're spraying weeds, like whenever we are spraying a weed on a lawn, so we'll go back to the store and I'll show you exactly, give you an example. Let's say you're trying to kill, let's say crabgrass as an example, right? Because no one likes crabgrass. I think we can all agree crabgrass is of the devil, right? So if we're trying to spray crabgrass, and you're using quinclorac, we're going to mix this, add it to our spray tank, and we're going to spray it. We're going to spray a fine droplet so it can be taken up by the leaves of the plant. And then the technical term is that it will work its way through the system. It'll translocate throughout the plant, through the grass, and eventually will kill it. So you want a fine mist, a fine droplet for that purpose. You want, again, to just lightly, thinly coat and evenly coat the skin of the leaves of the grass, and that's what a fine droplet does. You'd also use these in the case of liquid fertilizers. So if we go over to not killing stuff, but like making stuff grow, if we go over to Shop and Lawn Fertilizer, then all of these fertilizers, Primo Max, Primo's not a fertilizer, but let's say the Golf Course Lawn Carbon Kit, our biostimulants, our liquid fertilizers that from the golf course lawn store, our growth regulators, all these products, all these liquid sprays, from growth regulators to liquid fertilizers, they are all designed for foliar uptake, meaning you would spray them and allow them to dry. And for them to work best, you want a fine droplet so you can do as good a job evenly coating the leaf of the plant that you're targeting. So pretty much for most post-emergent herbicides, not all of them, but for most post-emergent herbicides, you're going to be using this tip, the fan tip or foliar spray tip. And then for soil-based products, you will use the flood jet tip. In case you don't already have these, I'll link them before in the chat, but in case you don't already have them, I'll link them in the chat here for you so you'll have them. So this is where you can get the flood jet tip. And then this is where you can get the foliar spray tip. These are two spray tips you should have in your arsenal. What you see, the way I have them set up here, they're on attachments because my sprayer has like a quick connect, so I can swap between these pretty easily. But most sprayers, regardless of which one you have, most of them, even if they don't have this type of setup where you can, it's like where you have like the nozzle is like isolated in this type of getup. Most of them will have an interchangeable end cap, meaning you can unscrew the cap and then swap the nozzle out, because these are fairly universal that they'll work with most sprayers. So invest in a good foliar spray tip, and a good flood jet spray tip. All in, you're probably looking at like $15 for the two of them, and it's going to make a big difference as far as the quality of the application you're going to make with the given product. So hope that helps, Jim. It's a good question. But yeah, I'd absolutely invest in one of those. And I've actually got a video. If you guys want to see, in case you're interested, you're like, well, what kind of a difference would this spray tip possibly make? How big a deal really is this? Does it really matter that much? And years ago, I did a video where I showed the benefits of nozzle selection, and I did like a close-up showing what would actually happen, like what difference it makes as far as coverage, like how what difference as far as like a close-up showing the leaf of the plant that's being sprayed, like what difference a fine droplet makes versus a coarser droplet makes. So I've got this right here. It's only a 4-minute video, so in case you're interested, believe it or not, this was one of the harder videos to shoot. Like, it took me a bunch of different takes to get the camera, to get the lens right where I needed it, to be able to get the shot. So in case you just want to see like what I'm talking about, like visually see it, you can take a look at this video. So spray tip selection video. So this is from a few years ago, but it still applies to today, and you guys will hopefully get some value out of it. So thanks so much, Jim. Great question. All right, next up is Alex Barton. He says, what's up, guys? Happy Friday. How do I keep my lawn looking beautiful on a budget? My wife has been fussing with me how much I spend on the lawn. I appreciate all that you do. Okay, so depends on what your budget is, Alex. So the big thing I'd say is if you're looking for a basic program, get a soil test done, get a fertilizer based on your soil test results, and then mow your grass. So the video that I filmed that was released earlier today on different fertilizer combinations is right up your alley. Like the very first option, I'll link it right here in the chat for you guys, is going to be a good fit for you, where all it talks about is just using just granular fertilizer. And then you can, if you want to go up a notch, you can take a granular fertilizer and stack it with just like a single liquid, like our 22-3 fertilizer. And that's going to make a really big difference as far as the quality of the type of grass you're able to grow, and just how the color and the evenness of growth that you're going to get from it. But outside of that, I'd say mowing is really the thing that you can do a lot of, right? And that's not really going to cost you anything but time. So you can be fairly basic with your fertilization program. But if you want the lawn to look really nice, you really can't neglect mowing. So this video will on fertilizer combinations, which again is just an update of an older video that I did. It's not gonna get a lot of views, but it's one that I needed to update, so I did it. Is one that you should check out. And the very first option is where you probably want to be. And the big thing is just be sure to mow your grass regularly, because it doesn't really matter if you go out and you use tons of different products on your lawn. If you don't regularly mow your grass, it's not going to look good. Like mowing is what really brings it all together and really gives you that manicured look. So as far as on a budget, as long as you got the time, that's what I'd recommend. A fertilizer based on the soil test results, and then regular mowing. All right, Nipettes2609 is in on Instagram saying, Ron, I'm throwing down my prodiamine this week. I think the Specticle fly put down in October should prevent some weeds in the early onset of spring. Yep, should. Fall spring here in Dallas-Fort Worth, soil temps are in the low 50s this past week, so I'm not too far behind. Not at all, man. You still got time to get it out. So if you're doing it this weekend, you're going to be good to go. You put your prodiamine out this weekend, no problems at all. And to your point, you did use Specticle. I don't know if you did a single application, if you did multiple apps, but if you did especially the split app, like you did another application in like November, December timeframe, yeah, you're still getting some of the benefits from that. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. You're gonna be just fine. He says neighbor doesn't like dogs and certainly doesn't like the dogs going to the bathroom on his rock bed lawn. So he sprayed Roundup on my lawn and about 10 other lawns that all have dogs. So it was retaliation. Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, long short of his talk to the guy, ask him to not do that. But here's the thing, just like you don't want him spraying glyphosate on your lawn, which I completely understand, he does not want people having their dogs use the bathroom on his lawn, which I also understand. It is irritating to me when people will go out and they'll walk their dogs and they'll let their dogs like defecate or pee on my lawn and just leave it there. Like, it's really not nice because it burns the lawn and is unsightly, and you absolutely know your dog was doing it because you were there when it did it. So I believe his response is certainly out of proportion. Like, you shouldn't be out. I mean, I can't think, even people that I don't like, I don't think I can bring myself to go out and spray glyphosate on their lawn. That's just a different kind of evil to do something like that. But I'd say you have to make sure you have no blame in the matter. Like, if you keep your dog off of his lawn or his rock bed, whatever it is, it might be a rock bed to you, but maybe this man is very proud of his rock bed. So, maybe he just doesn't want dogs or animals in it. And that's, I guess, in some ways it's his right? He doesn't want them in there. He doesn't want them in there. But yeah, I guess talk to him if you can and say, hey, listen, man, I realize you've had challenges in the past. Like, my dog has been on your lawn. I'm going to do all I can to keep him or her off your property. I apologize for that. I would really appreciate it if you would not, put any products on my lawn, in particular, like anything that's going to damage my grass. I realize, we got off the wrong foot, and I'm just trying to, new slate, and I'll keep my dog off your lawn, and you will keep yourself and glyphosate off of my grass, and go from there. So hopefully that's all it takes. But it sounds like it's like a War of the Roses type of thing going on, man. Sounds like you guys are kind of past talking. So, but at least try. So at least worth trying. All right. Golf Castle says, I took the temp of my soil and it's around 55 degrees. Am I too late for prodiamine treatment? No, you're not too late, but I would not wait much longer to get it out. I'm in South Carolina. I have dwarf Bermuda and Tiff-Tuff. Can I hit weeds with Celsius Certainty combo still dormant? Yes. So the answer to all your questions, the first one is it too late to apply prodiamine? No, it is not. Can you control the weeds that are growing in your lawn now with Celsius and Certainty? Yes, you can. So if the weeds are actively growing, you can absolutely use, assuming that Celsius and Certainty are labeled to control them, which I would imagine they are, you can use those this time of year, no problem at all. But you're not too late. I just wouldn't wait that much longer. I would get it done. Again, we are on a warm trend right now. It's probably not going to stick around the entire time into spring, but there's no negative to really getting your pre-emergent out a little bit early. When it comes to pre-emergent, a little bit early is better than a little bit late. So I absolutely, if I were you, you're in South Carolina, so you pretty much have the same climate that we do here in Georgia. I wouldn't wait to get your pre-emergent out, man. I would there's just not a whole lot of benefit really to waiting much longer. Again, the lawn care services around here, January 2nd, trucks are already rolling in the neighborhood spraying pre-emergent. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily need to go that early, but I'm just kind of puts it out to let you know that, that it's for a lot of lawns in my neighborhood, it's been already 5 or 6 weeks since they've had pre-emergent on them. So you're fine where you are in South Carolina. The Trilla from Manila has entered the chat. He says, hey, Ron, happy Friday, everyone. I plan to lay down my first split app of pre-emergent this weekend to kick off year 2 of lawn domination. I like it, man. Sounds like a plan to me. Sounds like a great plan. Go ahead and get that done. And then next up is Jim. He says, Ron, I'm in here in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville Beach, where soil temps are in the mid 60s and air temps are warming up nicely. Thoughts on scalping this time of year, being cautious in case of more frost? I mean, if you wanted to break it up, if you want to do like I use the term pre-scalp, like you want to take some of the material off the lawn and then kind of work your way down as you get closer to like March, that's fine. But we are already through week 1 of February. So, I mean, especially with you being in Jacksonville, I'm not saying it's impossible that we can't get another cold snap and then they won't reach as low as Jacksonville. But my lawn has already been thinned out. Like it's already where it's pretty much going to be to start the season. And I am quite a bit further north than you are. And I'm not really too worried about it. So you being in Jacksonville, if you want to go out and get your scalping done and then get your pre-emergent out, I really wouldn't be too concerned about it. You got a lot going for you. You're further south than we are. You're in Jacksonville, so you're near the ocean. So that's another reason why, in general, if you do have cold temperatures, it's probably not going to stick around for too long to where it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. So if you want to get that done, I would not be mad at you. All right. Next up is Jim. He says another follow-up. He says, in following your footsteps last year, I used the 12-0-24 to start up and the 16-0-8 during the season. Do you use soil temps as indicators as when to apply the stress blend and then eventually humic max? Great question, Jim. So not really. I look at the lawn. If it's beginning to wake up in late February, March, I will go ahead and get the 12-0-24 out. Ideally, once temps are above 50s and they're staying like they're staying above 50s consistently, even at nighttime, Bermuda is really going to begin waking up and growing quite nicely. So what I have found in the past few years, getting my my starter fertilizer for the season, which is the 12-0-24, out in March, and then moving to Humic Max 16-0-8 in April has worked really well. Unless we have some kind of crazy cold snap this year, that is what I intend to do this year. So yeah, that's the plan. That is the plan, sir. And then Jimmy Miller has a question. He says, Ron, if I ever get my true cut back with a new relief grind, should I scalp my lawn or just slowly lower the height of cut as you initially suggested? Nightmare continues. Either way will work, Jimmy. Either way will work. Slowly lowering the height of cut is probably a little bit less stressful, but if you're just starting at the beginning of the season and you're just trying to do a reset, there's nothing wrong with scalping. What I would try and get you away from doing is I would not take it down to the dirt. Like whatever height of cut you intend to maintain the lawn at, I would take it a quarter of an inch or so below that. And that gets you a lot of the benefits of scalping without unnecessary stress to the grass and also unnecessary wear and tear on your equipment. And John D says, it's POA. It's a pretty green. It's POA annua. I mean, it is. I will tell you, if POA annua as far as a grass, it's not. If it didn't have seed heads, if it didn't have the bloody white seed heads that grow in the middle of it, the flowers that just look ugly, it's actually not an ugly, a hideous looking grass. It just looks terrible in a Bermuda lawn or a lawn that's dormant. But if you had a lawn that was completely POA annua and you didn't have any of the seed heads, then it wouldn't be. I mean, it wouldn't be like ryegrass or Kentucky bluegrass, but it wouldn't be terrible. It wouldn't be awful. It's really the seed heads that make it look unsightly, in my opinion. All right. Next up is Adam Stark. She says, it's maybe POA, but I haven't had any all winter long. Yeah, so even if you haven't had it all winter long, Adam, now that temperatures are beginning to warm up, now is when you will see it. So POA annua will begin germinating, a month ago. It'll start growing, long before you see it. But when temperatures get a bit warmer, like what we're getting right now, is when you'll begin seeing it really show up in lawns. Like the lawns around here, like the services that didn't use Specticle flow, you can see the ones that didn't use Specticle because they have more POA annua in them than the lawns that do. So it's the fact that you didn't see it over the winter doesn't mean that it's not POA. As a matter of fact, the fact that you're seeing it now kind of leads me to believe more so that it is POA. So given the choice between it being St. Augustine, like rogue St. Augustine and zoysia in your lawn, or POA annua, I'm going to put my money on POA annua. That's probably what you got going on in your lawn. All right. Next up is, let me see. Jimmy's just having a back and forth. Let me see what else we got here. We got Tom Hoffenkamp. He said, what's up, Lawns fans? Love the lawn talk. Got my pream down. I like it. The relief I feel is palpable. I got nothing to do but mow now. All is well with the world. It is true. I will say that it is true. You know what? You know, I'm Tom. I've never actually said that, but what you are saying is true. It's almost like you have some work assignment that has to get done, or like it's like leg day in the gym. It's like something that you know you got to do, and not necessarily fun to do. But once it's finished, you feel accomplished. You're like, all right, man, I can check that one off the list. And now I can go on to the stuff that I really enjoy doing. And pre-emergent is one of those things. Let's face it, I mean, pre-emergent isn't as much fun as like, you know, spraying fertilizer in your lawn or spraying like, you know, growth regulator. I mean, I find those to be more fun than doing pre-emergent, but it's a necessary evil. It's a necessary evil if you want to not be fighting weeds throughout the season. And I get it. It is. I've never used the word relief, but I can see where you're coming from. There is a thing, a certain sense of accomplishment, and feel like you got a monkey off your back whenever you got your pre-emergent out. You're like, all right, at least I'm good from this standpoint. I'm good until like, you know, the fall. All I gotta do now is just mow it and feed it, and we'll be good to go. So yeah, good stuff. In your case, you got more to do though, because you still have to get rid of that ryegrass. You know, that's gonna be interesting. We would definitely want to blow by blow on that one. So keep us posted as far as whenever you decide to finally get rid of that ryegrass overseed you got going on. Let's see here. He says, Lorenzo Minot says, certainty and Celsius combo didn't work for my zoysia. Any other recommendations for sedges or other weeds? I am going to say there's something with the rate or the way you used it, but Celsius and certainty absolutely works on zoysia. Like certainty absolutely works on sedges, and Celsius absolutely works for broadleaf control. Like that is an absolute fact. So things could be, did the rate that you used maybe wasn't exactly what it should have been? If you didn't use surfactant like that, I mean, even without surfactant, you still should get results. But if you didn't use surfactant, that could also have negatively affected your results. If you sprayed it and it rained right after you applied it, that can negatively affect it. But as far as like Celsius and certainty not working on zoysia, that is just or not being effective for controlling weeds in zoysia, that is not the case. It absolutely does work for broadleaves, and for sedge control in warm season grass, like certainty, in my opinion, is about as good as it gets. So I would check the label, check how you mixed it, like the rates that you used, and just revisit that, because it's probably something in how it was applied that made you not get the kind of result that you are after. All right, let me see here. Jim Schmidt is up next. He says, Ron, besides replacing Essential G with carbonized PNG, any new products you've added to your routine throughout? Hashtag copycat 2025. No, not really. I mean, so Essential G, if you look at the video that I shot that was released today, is literally like in the latter part of that video, there's like a section where I says like what I'm going to be using on my lawn, and that literally is it. It is carbonized PNG, Humic Max 1608, the Release Zero Carbon Kit, and then the golf course lawn fertilizers. That's it. Like that's my spoon feeding program. That's what I'm gonna be doing this year. It's in the video that was released, set live a few hours ago, so you can check that out. And that's what I'm gonna be rolling with. And then carbonized PNG, because Essential G is no more. But as far as other products, no, nothing else really planned. No, the only thing I might get to do this year, we'll see, is depending on how good a job I do getting rid of the Bermuda grass in my front lawn. When I put the zoysia in, you know, I may get a chance to personally try out recognition and Fusilade to knock out Bermuda grass if I have some breakthrough. That might be a thing, but that's not really like part of a program. That's more of like treating a problem, assuming I didn't do a good job with the prep work, right? But yeah, the program where it is now, I am very happy with. Like the growth regulator stack that I got between Primo and a new EZ, the rates for that, and then the rates for everything else, I'm very happy with. I mean, while I don't mind tinkering, like there's always a cost to change, right? There's always like change is not free, and like the results that I got last year, I'm very happy with, and if I get those again this year, I'll be quite happy as well. So yeah, there's nothing else really to change, nothing else to really swap up. I mean, I would you want to know what I'm doing? The Release Zero Carbon Kit and the 22-3 fertilizer and micronutrient. That's my liquid stack along with Renew and Primo. That is what I am rolling with, Jim. So if you want the inside scoop, you want it here, you and the other 100 people that are here in the live stream, that is what it's going to be. let's see here. Sepin says, I use Empora for sedges and zoysia. That's an option. And then next up, we have Antonio Vera. He says, hey, Ron, what is the consequence of too much pre-emergent? So depending on how much you over applied it, you can get an effect called root clubbing. So you take like Bermuda grass, where it spreads via, I mean, both stolons and rhizomes, but like the above surface runners, the stolons. Whenever those will try and throw new roots, whenever they'll try and tack down and throw roots, like can run into problems where that will be inhibited because of you grossly over applied pre-emergent. So that's one effect. That's probably the most common visual effect that people will see if they overdo it. But yeah, hopefully you didn't do that. And if you did, the results, I guess, will be relatively short-lived. You'll be dealing with it for a few months, but yeah, I would not over apply your pre-emergent. I wouldn't overdo it. I wouldn't stack a bunch of them. Like I would apply it at the rates on the label, because that's the correct dosage to get the result that you want without getting the negative effects like what I just described, like root clubbing. Tavares Jones up next. His soil tests showed my turf type tall fescue lawn needs a lot of help. I have a plan. Reseeded last fall. Is it okay to do pre-emergent or just spot spray as weeds come up? Here's the thing I would tell you, Tavares. If you reseeded last fall, it is too soon to do like a blanket spray of pre-emergent. The question you have to ask yourself is this, right? Is if your lawn was already fairly established, it was already an established stand of turf type tall fescue, and you were just putting out some grass seed to help thicken up some areas here and there, to where that new seed is really the one that's at risk. If you wanted to do pre-emergent in the spring, and you're kind of rolling the dice on whether you would damage only that new grass that was seeded last fall. If the entire lawn was established last fall, then I just wouldn't take that chance. It's not worth it. In that case, the second part of your question, which is using post-emergent sprays or manually pulling the weeds, that's the way I would go, because it's just not worth the risk of damaging a lawn that you put a lot of time and money into establishing last fall. So it really depends on when you reseeded, like what you were accomplishing with the reseed. Again, if the lawn was fairly already established, meaning it's a lawn that's been around for a while, and you just reseeded in a few areas that were a little bit thin, it's really your call whether you want to roll the dice on a low rate pre-emergent application. But really the best way would be to avoid it until this upcoming fall, and just to use post-emergent sprays or just manually pull the weeds to get rid of them. So hope that helps, sir. It's a good question. It really depends which is more important to you. Are you willing to risk potentially damaging your grass, the newly seeded grass, or is spraying the weeds with post-emergent spray or manually pulling them something that you'd be open to? So it really depends on what's more important. Let's see here. We got No Name says, I got my pre-emergent out and it rained last night. It's way too warm for this week. It is, man. It's warm weather, but I'll take it. I like it. I am not mad at all. If it happens, I mean, hey, I might be able to get my reno started sooner. That'd be fun, right? That would be cool. And then Jimmy says, let's just hope we don't repeat the same pattern we had 2 or 3 years ago. Weather warms up and then we get hit with a frost. Yep, that's what we don't want. It was 2023, I think, the spring of 2023. It was really bad. All right, Sepin says, in Central Texas, my lawn is already starting to turn green. I like it. The temps are there. Once temps consistently get above 50 degrees, Bermuda will start waking up. So yeah, I get it, man. What you are seeing is exactly what should be happening. Jason Knight is up next. He says, hey, Ron, joining the stream late, but I'm in North Carolina and I got Poa annua growing in my Arden 15 Bermuda grass. What do you recommend to get rid of it, and what pre-emergent should I be using? 2 great questions. So to get rid of the actively growing Poa annua in your lawn, Jason, what I would recommend is Certainty along with surfactant. This combination is great for getting rid of Poa annua. Be sure to use Certainty at the higher application rates. So the rate per the label is like 1 1/4 ounces per acre up to 2 ounces per acre, which equates to Certainty comes with a measuring spoon. And if you use one of these, I'm not sure how their math works out this way, but if you use one of these per the label, one large side, you got a large side and a small side, one large scoop, that's the low rate. And if you use 2 large scoops, that is the high rate. That is the 2 ounces per 1,000 rate. And that's the rate you're going to want to use for Poa annua along with surfactant to get a good result controlling Poa in your Arden 15 Bermuda lawn. As far as pre-emergent goes, I'll show you a couple of options here. First of all, let me send you, as far as the certainty, let me send you a link for that. So you've got that. I'll send you the one with the kit. So you get both the surfactant and the dye. So there you go. That is their certainty. And then as far as pre-emergent goes, it really depends on what your preference is. If you go to shop and then weed killer and then to pre-emergent, we got a couple of options. You can go with either prodiamine, you go with either prodiamine or dithiopyr. So you like dimension or prodiamine. Either one of these will work great as a spring pre-emergent. Dimension is labeled to control more weeds than prodiamine. It also has a bit of reach back over young crabgrass, so lots of people like it for that reason. Prodiamine, though, in my opinion, tends to last a little bit longer than Dimension does. But they're both great. You really can't go wrong with either one of these. If you want a liquid option, which you can mix herbicides along with it, like post-mortem herbicides along with it, you could go with prodiamine in a dispersible granule and a wettable granule, so you could spray it as a liquid. But any of these, Specticle flow, and if you wanted to, as long as you're going at low rates, any of these would be good options for a Bermuda lawn for pre-emergent. What I tend to do is use Specticle in the fall, and I use prodiamine or Dimension or dithiopyr in the springtime. So really depends on which one you want. So I'll give you a link to our pre-emergent section, and then you can decide for yourself. Any of those will work well for your spring pre-emergent. All right, next up is Jim Schmidt. He says, when do you start putting down bi-monthly liquid micros? Same time you start applying the 12024 granular in the early spring? Yes, Jim, great question. So what I will do is I will start my foliar sprays normally like mid-March. Again, depends on how the lawn is waking up, how it's looking. But mid-March is when I will start going with that. And then I just continue that every 2 weeks throughout the rest of the season. So the granular will go down first, and then the liquids will start mid-March, depending on how the lawn is looking. You want the lawn, because it's a foliar spray, you want the lawn to be actively growing, right? So they can take it up and be making use of it. There's not a whole lot of point or benefit to spraying a dormant lawn with a liquid fertilizer stack that's designed to be used via foliar uptake. So I wait for the lawn to be waking up, to be showing green, and maybe I've even mowed it a few times, and then I'll introduce the liquid sprays every couple of weeks. All right, then Eli says, when do you start any kind of applications and what kind? In Bermuda, South Carolina. So good question, Eli. This is answered in our monthly application calendars. This is free to be able to take a look at. If you go to resources and then lawn care schedule on the Golf Course Lawn Store, and then choose option 5, which is the monthly month breakdown of what you can do for a great lawn. All right. So starting in February, most of this applies to pretty much all grass types, both cool and warm season grass. The only thing that's optional really is your scalping. So you really don't scalp cool season grass, but everything else will pretty much work on both grass types. So this is in February is when I would say you can do your soil test. If you're going to scalp your lawn, you can get that done either in February or in March. And then as you can see here, I start introducing fertilizer in March, the rate that I use, and then April. This is what happens in April. This is what happens in May, June, July, and so on and so forth. So this is what I do on my lawn, and it's not only works in my lawn here in Georgia, but folks, literally hundreds of folks all over the country have written to me using this free schedule, and have had and reported their lawn looks better than it ever has. So this is good guidance depending on where you are. You're in South Carolina, so you're pretty much the same as me. You might be able to make adjustments, a few weeks later or a few weeks sooner, depending on where you are in the country. But this is a solid foundation for building out a complete program. So we're talking about like the culture practices, like your scalping, your soil, like your soil testing, getting that done, your nutrient program, your growth regulators, and then also like your pest control, right? So getting your preventative fungicide apps out, and then also your insecticide apps out. Like all of that is covered in there. So you can read this as a basis, and hopefully you can get some value out of it, and you can take what works for you and use that to build your program. But literally, if you followed that, you'd be pretty happy with the results that you get. Jim, the maestro says, long time no see, Ron. Green peeking out in Swanee. Let's go. Nice. I like it. I like it, right? And then Jim Schmidt says, for micros, do you prefer 22.3 and 901C instead of 22.3 and micronutrient blends by the Andersons? Okay, so you're confusing two different things. So the 22.3, so it's 22.3 or 901C. So 901C is would be like a liquid fertilizer, and then the 22.3 would also be a liquid fertilizer as far as applying your macros, right? So there would not be a case where you would do 22.3 and 901C. You could do 22.3 and release 0, but you would not do 22.3 and 901C. And then for the micronutrient blend, that would work. If you're doing 901C, then you absolutely, I can actually show you here. If you're doing 901C, you absolutely want to use the micronutrient blend, this one, because 901C doesn't have any micronutrients like your iron, copper, molybdenum, zinc. It doesn't have any of those in there. So you're going to be relying on this to supply those. So if you do 901C, you pretty much are going to want to do this. If you're doing the 22.3, this is technically optional because this already has some iron in it, has some zinc in it. But if you're looking to cover the other micronutrients, that's where you could stack these two together. But this really can stand by itself. I mean, you've got some kelp in there, you've got some fulvic acid in there. I work with the Andersons on this to say if I could tell someone that you can use like one liquid fertilizer, just one, that is going to, I mean, it's not going to be as good as like the Release Zero Carbon kit and this product, but it's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting and is going to be, for someone that's just starting out and wants like a quality fertilizer they can use in a good spoon feeding program, like the 22.3 is what I would go with. But again, if you're really trying to optimize things, you would take that and use the Release Zero Carbon kit with it, which is what I did last year and what I'm going to be doing this year. So hopefully that helps explain things, Jim. It's the 22.3 or 901C, and then the micronutrient can be used with either of those. It's like a supplement to either of those products. All right. Okay, let's see if we have anything else. We got Jason Sewell here. He says, we are in stage 4 water restrictions here in Corpus Christi. No watering allowed at all. Suggestions for the season or anything I can do for a green yard? Yeah, so without being able to water, you are going to face some challenges as far as having the grass look as good as it possibly can, Jason. However, you can make use of moisture managers like Hydrotane. So I'll show you some options that you can do for when you are able to put some water on the lawn or some rain, you get some rainfall. If you go to shop and then soil moisture management, look into these guys. So Hydrotane is a good option in that you can apply this. It helps make more of the water that you are able to put on your lawn or that you receive from rain. So in your case, I would absolutely recommend a moisture manager. They make a big difference. They can reduce watering requirements to say up to 50%. And it's for someone like you, a moisture manager is going to be really important, especially as we get into the hotter time of the year. What I would tell you is if you're going to use one, you're going to want to get it out, like say, now might not be as necessary, but I'd say like late March, early April. Get it out prior to the bad conditions. Get it out prior to the conditions when it gets really hot, to where the lawn is going to start seeing drought conditions. Because the way Hydrotane works is it pulls moisture out of the air, like it pulls it from above the soil, above the root zone, and also below. So it helps draw water from both sides towards that area, 2 to 3 inches beneath the soil, 6 inches beneath the soil, where the roots, where the majority of your roots are. So in your case, something like this is going to be really important for helping your lawn look as good as it possibly can, given that you're going to be limited in the amount of water you're going to be able to put on it. So I'll send you to where you can pick that up or take a look about it and read more about it. But this is definitely going to be your jam for given what you're dealing with in that part of Texas. All right, you're very welcome, Eli. And then next up is No Name. He says, don't forget to get those blades sharpened and machine serviced. It's almost time. Let's go 2025 seasons. Good advice, No Name. I agree with that. The only thing worse than not cutting your grass is probably cutting your grass with dull equipment, because then you're going to cause all kinds of injury. You can cause disease problems. So the advice he's giving is really good. Make sure your equipment is sharp. It helps minimize injury to your lawn, which is really important, especially if you're real mowing. You're doing the kind of stuff we're doing, where you're keeping the lawn shorter, where you're constantly, you're mowing a few times per week, it's even more important that you keep your equipment sharp. All right, and then next up we have Tom Avacamp. He says, I'm looking forward to the golf course lawn micros this year. I finally ran out of Nutrisolve. Nice. I think you'll like it, Tom. It is literally better than Nutrisolve in every way. That was like the design. Like, whenever like a car manufacturer looks at another car manufacturer and says, hey, like, take this, our thing is to beat this particular manufacturer. I said, okay, well, this, like, Nutrisolve was a great product, still is a great product. Like, how can I improve on this in every way? And that's what I challenged folks at the Andersons to do. We went through a couple different rounds, iterations to get it to where it is now, but it's been pretty good, man. I mean, folks have the feedback's been excellent, and I think that folks are really going to enjoy the product as it gets more and more popularity. So it's really good formulation, and I'm really proud of it, and happy that folks are getting their hands on it. We got a super chat from Mr. Jim Schmid. Just saying thanks. Thank you so much, Jim.
Super chat received.
I appreciate the love and support, sir. And then we are winding down. Let's see what else we got here as far as questions. Next is Joseph Kim. He says, I scalped my Bermuda lawn at 0.4 inches. I did this because the builder did a crappy job at leveling and laying down sod last year. I definitely have bare spots. Do I need to be worried? You probably went a bit more aggressive than you should have, given that it's a new lawn, Joseph, but no, it's going to be fine. Like scalping Bermuda to 0.4 inches is not going to kill it. I mean, you may have some areas that take a little longer to fill in, but you didn't do any permanent damage. But I would say until you level it in the future, I would, bring it up a bit higher, because, when you scalping a lawn is stressful to the grass. Bermuda, given that it's a creeping grass, like the crown of Bermuda. The crown for Bermuda grows so close to is so close to the soil layer that it's really hard to do like any kind of permanent damage to a Bermuda lawn from like cutting it. But it's just it is a stressor, and if you can avoid doing that and still get the benefits of scalping, why not? So you're already there. Whatever you did is not going to permanently damage it, but just give it time, and it'll eventually it'll recover. And then Tom Havacamp says, promise me you aren't switching to something new. I promise. Okay, I pinky promise I am not switching to anything new. Like literally the video that was released today, that is what I'm going to be using on the lawn this year. Like the nutrient program which you saw, like Humic Max and carbonized PNG are what I'm going to be using for granular. And then the liquids that you saw are what I'm going to be using for liquids. I have no plans. I'm not changing to anything else this year. That's what I'm going to be rolling with. I don't want you guys coming after me. Plus, there's no need. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's already a lot of stuff. I mean, that's not a small amount of products to be doing. I mean, and the reason why that stack is what I roll with is because like each of them serves a purpose, and it produces an incredible stand of turf grass paired with everything else. So there's no real need to change it up, right? It's working. Just keep doing more of it. So there we go. And then next, I think that's our last question. Yeah, it's the last question that I'll cover for this evening. Well, guys, gals, I hope you guys found this useful, and hopefully it was at least entertaining if it wasn't useful. I'll cue the outro music. But again, this time of year, guys, I really want to encourage you, if you've not done a soil test, get one done. It is one of the best investments you can make in a quality lawn for this year. Once you get your soil test done, be sure to get fertilizers based on that soil test. We've got a great video that was released earlier today that, I'll actually, I will link it in the chat after the live stream is over. So for you guys to take a look at that covers different combinations, starting from very basic to more complicated for feeding your lawn. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot. Again, my goal is to put out more content this year so that you guys can get all the info that you need and help bring more folks into this fun and crazy hobby of lawn care. Have a great and amazing weekend. And if you're watching the Super Bowl, hopefully your team wins. I will see you guys next week. Have an amazing weekend. Take care.